And we are live. Okay. So, let's create a world. This is Carm in the Dark, a cyberpunk version of Blades in the Dark. And we know not much about our world so far. So we're going to create it. The only thing we have decided is that it's going to take place in the city, which is a sprawling, endless city, or as big as we need it to be, in which our game is going to take place. And I guess we did talk about a couple of other things, like how dark the game is going to be, right? And the technology level we're going to play at.
Mm-hmm.
We decided on a level of darkness that's approximately equivalent to your average Toy Story movie.
We just
So all over the place.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Those movies are terrifying.
Yeah.
Did you see Sid's room?
Yeah, they just go all over the place. One minute it's heartwarming, the next minute it's existential dread.
We just came from watching Toy Story 4.
Oh.
Oh, no spoilers.
So
It's a lot, my dudes.
it's good. She means it's good. It's really good.
It's extremely good, but
Did
I don't want to give any spoilers, but like there's some really crazy dark shit in there.
Does it exceed the scene in Toy Story 3 with the incinerator?
No.
It's not that explicitly violent,
Okay.
but it's more just like it's like psychological, like deeply depressing, you know.
Like that scene in 3, like those characters had accepted their impending death. And it was like, this is a kid's movie.
Well, even like in the first one, like I rewatched Toy Story 1 like a couple of years ago because my brother got me the set of all three for my birthday, I think. And I was rewatching Sid and I'm like, this is basically like animated Dexter. This is terrifying.
Well, now you're going to have to throw away the set of 3 and get the set of 4.
I know, it's completely useless to me now.
That's right. This is Toy Story spoilers. the Twitch stream.
Anyway.
That's an idea for a setting right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, I do have there is a game out there for where you play as like small abandoned objects and we were gonna get a game together at one point, but you can be like a hyper advanced coffee maker that's just been replaced. It's more like My Little Toaster.
I was just gonna say it's like My Little Toaster in the game. Which sounds great.
Yep. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Machine Hearts or something like that.
Well, cue that up. Where we'll die here pretty fast, probably.
That depends entirely on you guys. But yeah, we were kind of talking about a technology level that was pretty much near modern, right?
Yeah.
I think that's part of the world creation.
Well, that was just one of the things that we had discussed.
Oh.
Is, I asked, do you guys want flying cars and hoverboards?
Oh, okay.
And we kind of decided against that. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Where's the let's see. Here's the world creation Google spreadsheet.
Is that the one that the link got sent around for?
Oh, did Corey make one?
Yeah, I
Well,
did.
there's a link, but I have requested access. I don't know if it came through yet.
Oh, I didn't think it was gonna require. Okay, hang on.
Well, what did you like? Put our email accounts in or something?
No, I just put in a link, or I just said anybody with the link can edit.
Oh, well, that's not good because then I can't show it on stream. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll make one.
Okay.
I'm setting that up now. And how serious are you guys about rare uploads?
It was a throwaway joke,
Okay.
but if we like it, we can use it. But
Yeah,
I
sure.
am not attached.
All right. I'm gonna share.
I have
this.
very low attachment to anything in these games.
Matt, I don't know if I have your personal email, so send that in Discord or something.
It is my last name.
Don't
dot
say it.
My
Don't
first
say
name.
it on stream.
They don't know my last name.
Oh, okay. Got
You
it.
know my last name.
We'll
That's secret
try.
information.
We'll try to never say that. All right. It's last name first.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And fine, I'll just put it in Discord.
Well, you haven't given me enough information.
I gave you. It's at Gmail. Did I not say
Oh,
that?
you did not say that. At least I didn't hear you.
Maybe I got distracted by you telling me not to say things I was in the middle of saying.
That's what I do.
You threw an exception, and I couldn't handle it.
Welcome to my life.
Okay. You should be getting an email, and I'll also give you the link.
What's going to happen to the other one that I already requested access for?
Corey can delete it or whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, it will live in limbo for all eternity.
And that's going to be the secret game you guys have on the side. All right.
If I say that we're going to call that other game Getting Nuts, am I going to be the only person who gets that joke?
I got it.
Well, okay, yes, I know you got it.
Man, no one's going to watch this anyway, because I'm streaming to tabletop RPGs instead of D&D. So...
Well, this is very not D&D, so I think
Yeah.
that's
Because one
appropriate.
time he misclassified it as D&D and some dickhead reported it.
Yep.
All right, so you guys should all be able to get into the world creation document. You will go through world creation as a group. The way you construct your world would define the themes you explore and play, the genre influences, and the overall tone. By the way, I have the music on Dark City, but I can... I am going to select from a larger group of music for this game now, because it's going to be easier. So that's cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a whole bunch of like weird electronic crap I listen to when programming. So
Yeah, anything free to use is
free,
definitely
that's
a good
tricky.
candidate. It's easier with techno stuff. All right. The game is designed for all players to participate in world creation. All right. Oh, and we might get another player dropping by at some point today. We'll see.
That's
Who
exciting.
else is playing?
He joined us before as Shades of the Sand.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nifty.
Anthony. So Anthony was busy, but he said he might drop by a little bit later. And
Is he
was-
gonna be more available this go around?
First he said yes, and then he said no. So I don't know.
That sounds very familiar.
Uh-huh. We'll see. Okay. 2 ways to use pre-existing worlds. Okay, we talked about using pre-existing worlds, but I think we're just going to draw on the we're going to draw on the Shadowrun setting a little bit and other
Yeah.
cyberpunk stuff, but we're not explicitly making a Shadowrun because that's going to give us a lot more freedom, all of us.
Yeah.
Role of the GM facilitates the discussion. All right, so if you guys start spending hours discussing 1 or 2 questions, then it's my job to crack the whip. Great, that's definitely what I'm going to do. And I have veto power. Okay. Summary of world creation. So number 1 is define your dystopia. Pick 3 relevance factors which define social status in your world. Okay. There are also guidelines on how to modify the game for the genre you want to play. Alright. And then we're going to define our tech, which we've already kind of decided on.
Read that section because it does something really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Which is
go ahead.
you pick a different time period, and then you say this is the future of that time period. So like you can have a futuristic Western set like kind of level
Yeah.
of it's weird.
Well, I think it's basically like you could do steampunk.
Exactly.
You could
Exactly.
you could do Matrix like 90s style
Yep.
cyberpunk.
Yeah, that's definitely Shadowrun.
Mm-hmm. You could do transhuman madness.
So we know where we want the technology level to be, but we haven't actually talked about
It's true.
like that other dimension of it.
Right.
So
We're gonna
we should
define-
go through all the steps.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to define our magic, define the civilization, and define your starting city, which we have the vaguest idea about so far.
Yeah.
All right, so define your dystopia. Worlds in Carmen in the Dark breathe hierarchy and oppression. Society is defined by 3 essential truths. Number 1, the world's extremely polarized and segregated and competitive. Number 2, the world is stagnate with a self-protective system of power. Number 3, people have become objectified, reduced to insiders and outsiders, useful tools and relevant clutter. So if you were hoping for a light-hearted, romp of a game that doesn't tackle any meaningful social issues, you're in the wrong place. All right. Oh man, I forgot. I try to have like a prop on my head for every game, and I forgot the one I was gonna bring. I'll bring it next time. Fundamentally, your dystopia is about
I
power.
was strongly considering wearing an Oculus Rift for no reason because it felt cyberpunky.
That's actually a great idea.
Just like not even over my eyes, just like on my forehead.
Especially if you end up playing our version of a hacker.
Yeah.
Power is maintained by protecting this hierarchy of haves and haves not, based on defining what's normal, right, and powerful in contrast to what is alien, bad, and disempowered. Following the guidance below, your group will pick 3 specific markers that separate the powerful from the irrelevant. This inequality shapes the core mechanics of the game. When a PC tries to overcome an obstacle with an action roll, the setting you create will determine the effectiveness of their actions. Relevance markers. Pick 3 themes of oppression. Can I just say that's a great opening to a paragraph?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pick 3 themes of oppression. These will define relevance ratings in the game. For each advantaged group a PC belongs to, they will take +1 relevance. This means PC relevance ranges from 0 to 3. If you have a higher relevance, you will often naturally be more effective. So I actually misunderstood relevance originally, which is I thought it was the equivalent of tier in Blades in the Dark, but it's actually a pretty different. It has a pretty different meaning in this game.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a higher relevance, you will often naturally be more effective, but you can take less stress, meaning you can resist fewer consequences when things go wrong. That's interesting. So
Yeah, I'm like, now I don't know which way I want to go with that.
That's interesting. Adaption note: you always need to have exactly 3 relevance markers for the game mechanics. Okay. Dystopian Hierarchy will inform a lot about the world. Whatever themes you choose, it assume that change your status, and that group's extremely difficult. Okay, for example, if you pick a geography theme, it would be assumed that physical mobility is limited. If you pick a sexuality theme based on beauty standards, access to cosmetic surgery is rare. In this way, your themes also define access to certain parts of the world. If everyone has equal access to a theme, or the ability to change this marker cannot be one of the defining sources of power in your world. In the present day, money is one of the main forces of power in society. It can be easy to fall into the trap of thinking money would solve every problem in this fictional world as well. Remember, the world has experienced a magical apocalypse. Alright. Or a cataclysm of another nature if you choose to play without magic. It is very possible currency has collapsed and has little power or is overshadowed by other concerns.
Yeah, which comes back to our thing we were talking about last time about favor replacing coin.
Yeah, which I don't necessarily love. Like, to me, it is a critical pillar of the cyberpunk genre that money is everything.
Well, we haven't picked our markers yet.
Yeah,
We may not pick that
so
one.
I think we may head in that direction.
I mean,
may
wealth
want
is
to
on
head
the
in that
list
direction.
explicitly, so, you know.
Okay, so we have. So I guess we can roll a d20.
Oh, I thought there were 3 players. We should pick 3 things.
Oh yeah, no, that's what we should do. Never mind that. Besides, who cares about Bloodline?
Maybe one of us did.
Maybe. Okay, so if you all have the PDF open to page 5, that can't be right. Chapter 4, rather, page 41. Page 41. You should be looking at the chart of relevance markers. So we need to pick 3. So each one of you can pick one. Looks like what I'm trying to figure out is, so there's on this chart there are 5 columns and 20 lines.
Yeah. So each line is a marker, is like a category of marker, and then the other columns are examples. It's a weirdly laid out chart. I've been staring at it now for.
You must have you figured it out before I did.
Well, I've been staring at it for the whole time you were reading the earlier section, trying to think which one I wanted to pick. But
okay, cool.
I think it's meant as each row is a marker, and then within that marker you kind of get a little more specificity.
All right, well, you figured this out, and you've been staring at it.
Come on! Don't make me choose first. So I get to go last.
I mean, if somebody already has an idea, so the categories are ableness, age, birth order, bloodline, citizenship, cyberware status, heritage, and how is that different from bloodline? I mean, it's fairly similar.
Yeah, so
it's
bloodline.
race. It's basically
mobility.
race. Inherited, job / caste, family status, gender, geography, health, indigenous status, information / education, magic status, property, religion, sexuality, wealth, and credentials. So those are the different categories.
Yeah. I have like 5 that I like, and I'm struggling.
Tell
to
us
narrow it
tell
down.
us your top 3.
Does anyone have a specific one that they're like, I absolutely want that one?
I've got 2 that are kind of interesting to me,
Okay.
and they're pretty closely intertwined. So probably the one that is the more interesting one to me, in my opinion, is Heritage. I like the idea of, like, with this magical apocalypse, that, or sort of like with Shadowrun, there was the goblinification, where just suddenly a bunch of people turned into various magical races. And so having some kind of hierarchy or strata based off of that could be really interesting to explore.
That was one of my top few as well. I
So
like
which
that
one
a
was
lot.
that?
Heritage.
Heritage.
So, like, the supernatural versus human,
Right.
or it could just be.
So it's like, orcs, then goblins, then what? I don't know.
Yeah, and so I think that could be really interesting. Like, the first thing that comes to my mind is, and frankly, it's kind of a bad example because the movie did it poorly, but Bright, where like the elves ruled the world, and the orcs were basically a really bad allegory for black people.
I'm gonna buck the tide here and say I liked Bright. I liked Bright quite a bit.
Okay.
I actually haven't watched it yet.
It wasn't
But-
perfect.
It's not a bad movie. I just feel like they were a little lazy on the world building.
Did you? I think what happened is they made a mistake, and they did you see what we did? Is we actually looked it up ahead of time, and everybody says make sure you pause the movie in the beginning and read all the graffiti.
Okay.
In the first few minutes of the movie, it shows a bunch of graffiti, and that is critical world building.
Okay.
That makes the whole thing work. And
Okay. I'll
maybe
go back
that's.
and I'll take a look at that.
And I still think that the movie had some issues. Like there was some stuff that was way too over the top, like melodramatic, silly. It didn't fit with the seriousness of most of the movie. But
What's with the Dark Lord? Always with the Dark Lord.
Yeah, there were some dialogue issues.
That sounds like a
Overall-
quote D&D movie.
Yeah. There were some issues like that, and I'm not saying it was a perfect movie, but I thought it was good, and a lot of people have hated on it. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I don't mean to hate on it, because I like a lot of the ideas that are presented in it. I just think that it could have done a better job of presenting those ideas.
That
Oh.
idea in
That's kind of the
particular,
point.
I really like that one, Corey. I really like the sort of stratification of all the supernatural races with humans stuck in there somewhere.
Okay.
All right. So that's Corey's pick. So we're gonna. So okay. So is that a? So is Heritage? A positive or a negative?
I think it kind of depends on, I think it depends on which end of the spectrum you're on.
Yeah.
Like, are you talking about just are supernatural races more positively inclined versus humans? I feel like that some of them are and some of them aren't. Like humans are probably close to the middle of the scale.
So what you're saying is we've already broken the game's system, and that we don't know whether it figures into advantaged or disadvantaged.
We know that
think
there's a set that are advantaged and a set that are oppressed. We just haven't exactly picked what the sets are.
Okay.
I think all of these things are meant to split the world into haves and have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
We just haven't decided which set of races are in each bucket yet.
I'm gonna say that unless somebody wants to jump in here, following the Bright or Shadowrun idea of that, where elves are idealized. Basically,
We also
the idea
haven't
of humans.
decided which races exist.
True. True. Well, we
maybe
know.
I don't want
we
elves.
know. No, we know what. We know one. Pixies. There are tiny little pixies.
But maybe it's all I don't know, Gaelic or something. Maybe it's not the traditional Tolkien races.
Yeah, maybe it's more like the fairy courts.
That would be fucking cool. I was considering making a fawn character.
So kind of like a Dresden Files type of world instead of a Shadowrun type of world, kind of.
Dresden Files is kind of everything in the kitchen sink, but it's hidden.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but there's like, I mean, there is a lot of different stuff, but there are like some kind of major markers, like the Courts of Fae and the Courts of the Vampires and stuff that are very like, you know, I guess they're like bigger parts of the world than other
That's
things.
true.
That's the other thing that like heritage could be, you know, vampire or not. That's another way you could play heritage. You know, I don't know if our setting has vampire.
Let's say that you guys don't know
Sweet.
everything that exists.
Well, I'm making a vampire, so
We'll say that. We'll say that everybody. We'll say that you know, it depends on where you go, and who you talk to, and how you define it. And we'll. I like the idea that Kate said is kind of doing the Dresden Files thing. Where it's like, I mean, that's the thing about Dresden Files, is it's kind of like, what does the story need, in a sense? And it's like, you never hear about X thing in Dresden Files until the book where they're, like, the main story.
I mean, there are also, like 700 books in that series now, so...
I think it's more like, yeah. But close enough.
I stopped after, like, 8.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I haven't read them all yet either. I think I'm up to like 12, but yeah, they are kind of everything in the kitchen sink. I just meant in terms of like
the first couple of books
kind of a modern futuristic fantasy type thing that doesn't conform to the Tolkien elves and orcs.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this is informing some ideas in my head regarding our magical apocalypse.
Yeah. I mean, for my money, I find like that idea of doing like the Fae courts or something much more interesting than the traditional Tolkien races. But I'm open to whatever.
So essentially, rather than it focusing on the Tolkien races as has been called them, or instead we could focus more on, you know, essentially myths have become real.
Yeah.
What if we did something kind of like semi-cribbed from D&D, where the magical apocalypse that happened was like the infusion of a different plane of existence?
Oh,
you know,
all of Greek myth, all those things were on a different plane, and then
right, whatever
Okay.
mythology we pick, or whatever type of, you know, because that, like, it could even be like a teacher, like it could be, you know, fae or demons or something like that. That's like, that's what lives on this plane.
Demons are cool too. I'm all for hell's crashed into earth.
Deep into demons, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it could be something like that, where it's just like
it can also
some
be like
plane of existence.
the like the
opened up
way
as we start.
Marvel treats Thor, where like it was just another planet or something.
Right.
You know, it could be something like that as well. I mean, we can do it a couple of different ways, but I like that idea.
All right. Well, the thing that we are sure about here is that there are advantaged and disadvantaged heritages. So I think we're going with supernatural. More than nobody's mentioned like nationality, like different countries, different courts is interesting.
Yeah.
We'll think about that.
You could look at like maybe all the Greek myth stuff is advantaged, and all the Gaelic myth stuff is disadvantaged. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm putting in a relevance marker. So heritage.
Oh, yeah, so I guess you're supposed to actually put in what is the advantaged group in that cell.
Yep. I'm just doing some...
We can figure that out later. We don't necessarily have to decide that now.
We just fairies
know
versus normies.
Exactly.
Well, maybe.
It would also be a really interesting setting if all the supernatural things were disadvantaged and just humans were on top.
I like had this weird idea that it was like it's still like just white people, and so they are all oppressed because they're green or something.
Well, because they're Irish.
Right, exactly.
Oh my god.
Well, all right. We'll say for until we decide. We'll say pretty heritage versus ugly heritage.
Yeah,
Makes
okay.
sense. That seems like a good start.
Heritage A and Heritage B.
Okay. Cool. All right. So Corey picked one, and it gave us one of our themes, is the different heritages being advantaged and disadvantaged. So because you are, you know, a fawn, people have preconceived ideas that you are like super randy. I'm just saying if you went with that. And you know, they have certain preconceived notions that you are just always trying to get with the ladies.
Always wandering
just a total
around,
creep.
underneath
Or always
lampposts
drunk.
trying to pick up 6-year-olds.
Or always drunk. They just assume that you are a drunk and a
just-
creep.
24/7 Bacchanalia.
Wandering, and you're always hanging around under lampposts, as Kate pointed out. All right, cool. So Corey picked one. Who wants to pick one next?
Kate, do you have one? Because I have one that I'm pretty trending towards here.
Well, you said you had a few that you were interested in. I haven't really
I'm getting
thought about-
close. Okay. I'm gonna do credentials,
Hmm.
and I'm thinking it's like guilds. Like everything has a guild,
Okay.
and you're either in it or you're not.
So like a
I
guild or
think
a
that'll-
gang, or is the line blurred?
It's probably some of them are run more like gangs, and some of them are run more like hoity-toity, fraternity type. You know, I think it would depend on which discipline.
Okay. So like professional
Like
credentials.
the bankers guild is probably very very different from like the mechanics guild.
So the bankers guild would be privileged, and the mechanics guild would be
No,
oppressed.
the privileged versus oppressed is guild members are privileged and non-guild members are not. So like if you want to go do a thing and you're
okay.
not a guild member, you like can't do that thing,
That's interesting. So very
or
much
you're not.
like
No one hires you.
So very much like the original idea of guilds, like in a medieval city, where you know they are monopoly.
Yeah, but and like, oh, like let's say we're trying to like break into a place, like it's gonna be hard to pretend we're a member, we're some other thing because we don't have the guild credentials, right? Everyone's always going to be checking credentials everywhere.
And there's probably like different people, it might almost be like, unions versus scabs. Sort of.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I like that.
So what does it take to get these kinds of credentials? Is it
I don't
exam based?
know.
Is it
Well, that's
Well, probably very.
I see those two options, and that's why I said guilds, is because I don't think it's exam based. I think it's like membership based.
Yeah.
Well, it'd probably be
like-
different based on what your profession was. Like if
Yeah.
you're a doctor, it's probably more exam based, whereas if you're a construction worker, it's probably more like
But even a
skills-based
doctor,
or
even a doctor, yeah. But even a doctor could be in multiple guilds, right? Because you could have the the physicians guild, like, and then there could be like a more specific one, for example,
Yeah.
like.
And just like in real life,
Psychologists.
knowing the right people gets you into doctor school. And
yeah, I mean, maybe
whatnot.
it's since we're talking more specifically about the haves and have-nots and trying to minimize the possibility of someone who's not in a guild joining a guild, maybe one of the core things that's kind of common to all of them is that you need a sponsor.
Oh yeah, I like
you
that.
need
Yeah.
someone who is in the guild to vouch for you, to say, yes, this person is worthy of joining.
Or I mean, it could even be like unofficial. where it's, kind of like you were talking about getting into med school. It's like, in theory, anybody can get in, but
Yeah.
the priority spots are going to go to people who have a family member there or who know somebody on the board or something. And so it's like, it's merit-based, but not. Because
anyone can
ultimately-
get in, but you have to go in the back door, and you have to go through this maze, and you have to fight this guy.
And if you do all that, then that's fine. Or you could just have somebody tell you where the other door is.
Right.
So is it guilds or so they're not so multiple, vast corporations could be members of a guild.
I don't know. I hadn't thought this far ahead.
That's why
just
we're
like
developing
the
this
notion
together.
that
No, it might be more like individual people have to be members of a guild, and corporations like only hire guild people, and so
I was thinking that more along those lines,
Okay.
where like I want to I'm gonna go do a delivery, right? And when I go to pick up the goods, they're gonna check my delivery guild credentials before they even load the truck, or
Because otherwise, how the hell are they going to know that you're actually going to take the package where it's supposed to go?
Right. I'm picturing a world where like you're constantly having to show like you have the credentials to do this thing. Like it's a fundamental part of the world, right? That's what these things are. They're fundamental parts of the world.
Yeah.
I just think it'll be interesting for us to play in that world, because we'll have to like, if we steal credentials to something, suddenly like no one's going to question us about it. It's just like, yep, no, we're the delivery people. Here you go. We got the credentials right here.
Well, and it might be too, like, like what I'm thinking is that, having the credentials is partly your access, but it's also partly like, it is your status in the sense of, in poor or underprivileged communities, or, communities where people have to wear a lot of different hats, might not be able to afford membership fees and stuff.
Oh, right.
It's a lot more common, but it's kind of like, you could get a job like, keeping the cash register at the corner store, or you could get a job working as an accountant at a Big Four firm, and like that's the difference that a credential makes, type of thing. So you can get these jobs without credentials, but there tend to be like the poor paying jobs.
Right. And so people are going to make, like, the people would make a lot of assumptions about you based on your membership, like what guilds you're a member of, if any. Like, you're a trustworthy person if you are a member of a particular guild that they expect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I think it would carry like a whole bunch of other social markers along with it, just in terms of assumptions they would make about like not just your trustworthiness, but like your wealth and your education and all those kinds of things.
So maybe what I was initially saying about like absolutely every career needs credentials, maybe that's not right. Maybe what it is just that there are a significant number of these guilds, but it's being a member of one is such a big deal that makes you, part of the club.
It's kind of de facto.
Yeah. Once you're in the club, it's not like, they will help you with finding jobs. They'll make sure that you're in a good position. They'll make sure you're treated well, because you reflect on the guild's reputation at that point as well. And so the guild can't have you being in a low-end job, because that reflects poorly on the guild.
Right. Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, you get a lot of assistance
it's
from
just
the
like
guild
in,
that you would never get on your own.
In MMOs, it's just like in MMOs, right? If you're not in a guild, you're terrible, right? In this world, you literally have over your head, like, the name of your guild.
Cool. So I'm putting in guild members advantaged, non-members oppressed.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
All right. Kate, do you have one that a theme you want to throw into this world? A relevance marker from the chart.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, a lot of these are interesting, but I keep coming back to religion, because I feel like if a magic apocalypse happened, like, that would change everybody's religion.
Be a big reset.
Yeah, and so maybe religion is like really weird now because people are like, well, we obviously have proof that such and such a thing is real, and then other people are like trying to like retrofit their religions to like include this new information. And so there's like religions that are seen as more and less legitimate, kind of like there are today, but like way more so. Like,
is it like there's practically like a couple of like state religions that if you're part of them, you just kind of get to do whatever you want, or?
I don't know about state religions so much as like I'm thinking like kind of like the way that people perceive like Scientologists, but like 1,000%, where it's like, oh, that's so cute. Like you still believe in such and such a thing, even though like we now clearly have evidence that that's
so
if
you're a member of one of the old religions,
right,
everyone thinks you're ridiculous.
And I think depending on like whether we do have like literal Greek gods walking around,
right,
or like whatever we decide on, like that'll change whatever it is. But whatever we wind up on, it's like now you can't be like a Christian anymore because or whatever it is,
Yeah,
or an atheist maybe even.
Yeah, maybe atheists are definitely downtrodden, but I can
you guys were wrong.
I can also very easily imagine a world where Christians point to the Greek pantheon showing up and saying, yeah, but they don't know how they got here either. Obviously God did it.
Right, exactly. And so there's like so that like the religions still exist and they're trying to like retrofit themselves. But then maybe there's very clear like demarcation in the world where it's like, oh, those people are like, they're crazy, they're stupid, they're uneducated, they're clinging to like these outdated belief systems.
Backwards,
Exactly. Yeah. And because it's like obviously their religion isn't true. It's like the people who think that the entire like Hillary Clinton is a lizard person. She's not. You're crazy. But
I might make a conspiracy theorist. So.
Right. Okay. Well, sorry if you think Hillary Clinton is a lizard.
My character, I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing we could do to take that a step further into like, making sure that there's less mobility between religions and such is, if the old gods have come back and so we're dealing with, new pantheons that are physically here and obviously real, then the people who worship them might get very real benefits for worshiping them. If Zeus knows that you're one of his worshippers and he's real and he's on planet Earth,
that's interesting.
He might give you some boons.
But then people are suspicious of that because you're basically like a warlock in D&D. Like you promise yourself to some powerful entity that we don't necessarily trust, and worshiping them as a god makes you ignorant and insane. So that's scary.
I could see it going either way. It could be that people don't like the idea of pledging themselves to these new real and present gods. But I could also very easily see it where, if you're not worshiping one of these present gods, then you just can't compete with people that do because of the benefits that they're providing.
Right.
Maybe.
I mean, we mentioned gangs before. If you think about okay, Zeus has come back. The followers of Zeus are in a gang.
Right. Well, it's like, it's not like we're in a religion anymore. It's like Jesus literally has a phone number.
Right.
And you can call his assistant and be like, can you take care of it?
Picture a motorcycle gang, but the guy out front is literally Zeus.
Right.
So I would like to just say I don't want to I want to have as little real world popular modern religions as possible.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind having people in the game, a theme who people who worship Zeus. I know that people worship Zeus in the real world. But I'm not so worried about that as I don't want to like put Wiccans. You know, I don't want it to be explicitly like Wiccans or Christians or Jews.
Well, so what is the disadvantaged group?
I think Kate
Like
is suggesting
was
that
the-
it would be those who have formed these new religions that are.
I thought they were at the
That are-
advantaged group.
Well, that was it. But I don't want to put in. I guess I'm using my veto power a little bit and just saying.
Well, so what I'm getting at with what I was trying to ask is, let's say I make a character and I want to be disadvantaged by this thing.
Yeah.
What would I say my character's religion was without involving real world religions? Like,
The way I may have understood something along this conversation, but what I thought was, you know, the idea that you would say, yeah, I'm a follower of Zeus, and then people make a lot of assumptions about you, like, oh, you know, you're in a sex cult.
so
They're
it's
like,
it's
oh,
kind
you're,
of this,
you're a follower of Zeus. You have sex with a goose or a golden.
I think
string
all
from
three
heaven.
all three of our things we've come up with have produced this sort of stratification of like different like, oh, the Tieflings, they're at the top, and the people that worship Ilmater, they're at the bottom, and like.
So that's what you're kind of thinking is that it's not binary. It's not religious versus.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
non-religious.
That's what it sounds like you're saying.
That's what
I thought we were shooting for binary.
Okay. You
And
thought
that's
you were
what I'm like,
shooting
I don't
for
know how the
binary or
binary
not
works.
binary?
I thought we were supposed to be shooting for binary, and I don't know how we make this binary. If we
Doesn't
don't
have
make
to
it
be.
binary yet, that's
I don't
fine.
think it has
Yeah.
to be binary. Like,
Yeah, no,
it's-
that's fine. I'm
yeah.
I'm stating I was mistaken is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So, is that kind of what you're thinking about, Kate? That like there are, you know, they're depending on the different old gods who have arisen. Depending on which one you worship, you may fall into a different. That may affect whether you're oppressed or advantaged.
Yeah, and you know, I guess at the bottom would be people who just kind of nope out of all of it. You know, whether they're atheists or they just like don't want to change their religion.
haven't
I guess you
chosen
don't have to have.
You got to pick a team, right? And then
Exactly.
your standing is based on where your team stands.
So, is it unpopular?
You could do the same thing with sports. It'd be funny.
Is it popular religions versus unpopular religions?
Maybe, or maybe some of them are literally more powerful than others based on
Powerful religions versus what's the opposite of word?
weak.
Weak religions. Your religion is weak.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah,
might
exactly.
be kind of. It might be kind of like in, you know, American Gods or Small Gods.
Yep.
You know, where like the.
That was the vibe I was getting as well.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling thing where it's like the more believers
I like that.
you have in your religion, the more power you have. But if somebody manages to like steal a bunch of your followers by one means or another, then you're disadvantaged. Or if your religion becomes unpopular, or like in Small Gods, your religion becomes
Yeah.
like so
Doesn't
institutionalized
actually
that like
worship
nobody's
you.
a true believer
Yeah.
anymore.
So it is based on the number of followers, essentially.
That makes
That-
sense to me.
That's what I'm thinking
Mhm.
because that carries like
Okay.
a double whammy of like partly it could be a thing where it's assumed to make the deity more powerful, although we may or may not actually know if that's the case, and partly it's just like peer pressure.
Yeah.
You're part of the popular religion that everyone else is part of, or you're a member of the.
Honestly, I think this is fun. I think this is fun even if the deities don't actually exist in this reality. I think it's still fun that the bigger the group is, the more power they have, and that gives you status. Or not.
Yeah, for sure. I'll also say I feel like one thing that would be really important for this is that it's not easy to just change religions. You can't just say like, oh, I was
Yeah.
worshiping Zeus, but now I'm going to go worship Dionysus because those
You
guys
got
party all the
the
time.
you got the tattoo. You got tattoos. It's like a gang. Like,
No, there should be a very real supernatural thing that happens.
oh, like you have to, like-
pledge yourself
Yeah.
to one of these beings. they are, it's no joke to call them gods, right? They are, each one of them is so far beyond the mortal realm that there's no other word for it.
So they are actually walking around, or they're
walking
take
around.
This piece of you. Okay.
Like you literally have to go knock on their door? Maybe for
Well,
some
no,
of them. But
I mean, either way, you pledge yourself to them. You essentially give them like a part of your being,
right?
Whatever.
You pledge your soul to them. You're
I
going
think
to that
that
afterlife.
can happen. That can happen even if they're metaphysical. I'm curious whether they're actually physical or not.
I think they should be physical.
Cool.
There could be gods that
ones.
own companies.
I'm picturing Jesus on a motorcycle, and it's great.
Oh gosh.
It might be different for different ones, like depending on what the nature of the deity is. They could take like slightly different forms, but the thing that's real is like whatever form they take, their existence is as
Undisputed.
tangible.
Are there new gods the way there were in American gods, like the god that is the internet, the god that is social media? Like we have the feed in this when we get to that part of the world building. That could be part of this as well.
Yeah. All right. So, again, as funny as it is to throw those things out, I kind of want to avoid any kind of Christian or any modern real world religion.
Just substitute Thor. Thor on a motorcycle.
Like, I'm sure Thor is offensive to somebody, but I'm not going to worry so much about that right now. Thor on a motorcycle is a great image, I think. And Thor would totally ride a motorcycle.
Well, exactly.
And we'll try to be respectful, just in general.
I think, like, Loki is going to be much more interesting in a Shadowpunk setting. But, yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so we've said that... Alright, so our 3 relevance markers are Pretty Heritage versus Ugly Heritage, Guild members versus non-members, and Popular Religions versus Unpopular Religions.
Should we say... Did we want to go with the large versus small as the main distinguishing thing there?
Large religions versus small religions?
They may be, like, unpopular, but still huge. Like, maybe they're assholes, and, I don't know.
I don't know. I think those kind of mean the same thing, ultimately.
Okay.
I mean, I know I get what Matt is saying, like... there may be it doesn't really make sense.
This one religion, they're not popular, but they still have the most people because everything's so fragmented.
Well, it depends on what your definition of popular is. Like,
Unpopular
unpopular with non-members versus very numerous.
It depends on the theme that we are going for here, because either we're saying that. Either the world is kind of, remained like with certain prejudices and certain. Either we're carrying real world prejudices and conceptions into this game, or we're not. So, for example, to put an example to this, like if there were a bunch of worshippers of. A demon, right? Some kind of a bunch of worshippers of Azazel, in the real world, even if there were millions and millions and millions of them, right? They would still be not accepted, right? They would still be not cool in public spaces,
unless they were so many of them that they had taken over all governments.
True, but
everyone was afraid of pissing them off.
You could still say that they were popular in certain regions, etc. So the question is,
to me, that's still part of the have-not, or the haves versus the have-nots, because that's like the equivalent of the Yakuza.
Exactly,
like massive organized crime or the mafia, where they're still clearly in the category of the haves. They're just not as legitimate about it as a follower of Zeus might be.
Right.
Well, and it could be, I mean, and again, I know we're not doing actual real world religions, but it could be like it could be variant depending on like region and stuff.
Yeah.
So like there could be religions that are, like you might think of like Islam versus Christianity. Like depending on what country you're in, the connotations of that are extremely different. And being a member of a have or a have not would totally be flipped depending on where you were in the world. And might even in some places in the world be on the same footing because the major religion is something else and nobody likes either one of them, and so it could be something like that. Like in our region, we have certain specific gods that are powerful in our region.
At the end of the day, we're going to pick some specifics here eventually, and then...
Yeah. All right. So I guess do you guys want it to be popular religions versus unpopular, or do you want it to be powerful religions versus weak religions?
Let's make it powerful versus weak, I think, based on what we were just saying. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah, the heritage thing is more about prejudice.
Is everybody cool with this? Powerful versus weak?
I feel like this one is more about like fear and potential repercussions of offending someone of a powerful religion versus number one, the heritage thing. That's prejudice. That's like straight up racial prejudice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. Kate, this was your pick. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I think powerful makes more sense because it also it allows for other social pressures, to come into play. Like, the religion can be an institution in addition to a set of, beliefs. And so it's like, there could be gods that might not necessarily be particularly powerful or particularly interesting or scary on their own, but they have a massive church with a lot of wealthy donors, and so they wield a lot of power, type of thing. Or they don't have a lot of, they're kind of a weird church, but they're extremely populist, like we were talking about with the demon, where it's just like they have millions and millions and millions of people. And so a lot of people still think that their belief system is very weird, but they could also buy an election.
They have a secret handshake, and if they meet another member, then
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Stuff like that could come up.
All right. Let's keep going. I think
Do we think any of so? Do we feel like the guild, being a member of a guild, being not a member of a guild, is that too similar to being a member of a religion, not being a member of a religion?
No, because one
I'm willing
has
to change
do
mine.
with supernatural power, and one does not.
Right.
Well, and
True.
being a member of a guild, also they'll run on two different strata, but being a member of a guild, I feel like is more of like a concrete external,
That's true.
You passed the bar type of qualification, whereas being a member of a religion is a lot more like, that's
one
a
of
lot more
them.
fungible.
One of them is something we can probably fake sometimes in a score. The other one is probably a little bit harder given its literal gods.
And also but also it might be kind of difficult with the religion to know exactly what to expect going in sometimes, because it's like, all right, I know that I have to have an ID card that identifies me as belonging to this particular guild in order to pretend to be this. But I don't necessarily know if the person who I'm sweet talking is going to be offended when they see my necklace with the symbol of my deity, because our religions hate each other,
Mm-hmm.
The other cool
It's
thing is
also
you
a
could literally
situation-
choose to
Go ahead.
become a member. You could just choose to become a member of a religion if you haven't already, or even if you have already. Maybe that comes up. Maybe one of our characters has to change, and that would
I don't think they're similar at all, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'm convinced. I'm happy.
And I think being a member of a religion can be actually surprisingly hard to fake, because there's so much insider lingo and insider knowledge
I'm sure the guilds will have that too, though.
Yeah, but it's not it's a little bit more I don't know, it's like a cultural thing, as opposed to it's not like I can buy a legal dictionary and learn some words and sound smart. It's like, like the way that an individual, like even like a sect of a religion interacts might be totally different, than like a different sect of the same religion.
Let me put it this
In
way.
a sense.
There's no amount of money that could buy your way
No
to
amount
being
of.
the high
Didn't
priest.
hear what you said.
God damn it. There's no amount of money that could buy your way into being the high priest of a religion.
Depends on the religion, though.
In this world. In
Okay.
this world. Right? Like, you have to, not purely that, like, you have to have a connection, you have to have a supernatural aspect to it. You have to, you have to persuade this, powerful entity to accept you.
What if that entity...
Whereas a guild, that's maybe a little bit more for sale.
Yeah. No, I buy that. I also like that the guild thing is the only one that's kind of mundane. It's non-magic-y.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay,
I think somebody else said that earlier, and I'm just repeating it.
Perhaps. Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's important to have things on both scales because, and magic and mundane stuff are both going to be really important. And each thing is going to be, like, more or less difficult to fake depending on, like, the types of characters we build.
Yeah.
I would just want to say, we may decide to create some of our own pantheon.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I'm happy with that.
For this world. Like, not just Greek gods, although that is certainly possible. I guess I'm saying I'm not excluding real world stuff, but I think it would be fun to make it specific to our own world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Right.
Random anecdote, my favorite D&D book ever is Faiths and Pantheons from 2nd edition.
There you go. Okay, cool. And I have my own pantheons and all my...
Oh, sorry, it's from 3rd edition. I got that wrong.
Oh, then you're thinking of deities and demigods.
No, Faiths and Pantheons is a Forgotten Realms book from 3rd edition.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
That was kind of what I was trying to get at is, like, they're, like, if there are deities... You know what might be kind of interesting? Is if there's, like, deities that are, like, more and less okay with being, like, inclusive. So, like, for example, you could say, like, well, Zeus and Jupiter and Odin are basically the same thing, right?
Sure.
And so there might be some deities where it's like, well, there were a lot of different versions of me, but now that I'm here, like, we're all together. And then there might be other deities that are like, fuck you, that's not my name, be really like, mad about it. And so there might be, like, pockets of the world where it's like, but we still want to, worship such and such a thing. And, like, maybe that's, like, that could be part of the hierarchy of some of them too, is like, they cling to a deity that by that deity's own official statement does not exist, and does not want to be called that or worshipped in that way.
Or straight up doesn't want to be a deity or something and just wants to hang out.
Yeah, exactly. I was never a deity. I was just kind of like a minor constellation or something like that.
This is the Life of Brian
And-
version of this.
Exactly. And so it could be things like that where there are people who, they're like small pockets of them, but they're still clinging to religions that, like, we absolutely know for sure that your religion is fake.
Yeah, and then a non-real world example of that could be something like in Warhammer, or the orcs have two gods, Gork and Mork. Gork is tough but cunning, and Mork is cunning but tough.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's.
But
I want
Would God
to.
help you if you confuse the two of them? Because then they'll be mad.
Absolutely.
We're gonna develop these ideas more as we go on, so I want to keep moving here.
Okay.
Um. So be thinking about that stuff. The next thing we need to do is define your tech. Karma takes place in a futuristic setting. In this section, you sketch out your futuristic world and the technology that accompanies it. And there's the setting the genre thing that somebody was talking about. What time period?
Yeah. So their examples
I'm
are
basing
really
it on.
interesting. Like,
Mhm.
Fallout is the future of the 1950s. Cyberpunk is the future of the 1980s. Like, Mirror's Edge is the future of the 2000s. Horizon Zero Dawn is the future of the Stone Age, which I love that they tied that in
Yeah,
because that's awesome.
that's a great reference.
So yeah, I don't know, but I love all of those examples.
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn one is probably a little more difficult to fit
That
into
was
this
such
concept.
a silly game.
Oh, it was the best.
It was great though. But yeah, honestly, I do still think that I'm most interested in the classical cyberpunk Shadowrun Neuromancer kind of thing.
So like
Yeah.
80s, 90s type of
Yeah.
punk.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to do a different one another time, but for this run, I'm fine with that.
All right. Yeah, I think 80s and 90s. Future of the 80s and 90s is interesting. I don't mind. We'll say that's our genre baseline. But we might weird it up a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we might weird it up a bit. Decide on the time period that will inspire your futuristic setting. Okay. Future of tech. Physical machines and information, i.e. the feed. So let's sketch out some details about both forms of technology. So,
I'm gonna be right back. I have to run upstairs to the restroom.
all right. So
But
the
keep
first,
going without me.
okay.
Are you sure? There's a lot of like
Yeah, this
one-off
is-
little things.
We'll go back and discuss religion some more. So, how do atheists figure into this?
Well, they're clearly wrong.
Well, they don't think that it is. They're not interested in pledging themselves to any supernatural.
Well,
entity.
that's more agnostic then. Atheist is
All right. Well, what about
more
atheists
definitive.
who? So atheists are really looked down on because it's like you're just a moron.
They're like flat earthers, right? They're like,
Let me
you are
say-
patently wrong.
Let me say this: I'm a lot more interested in having religions as a theme with entities that are like walking around.
Yeah.
Like Loki has the best penthouse in the city.
Yeah. Or does he? Who knows?
Well, like that's like
Yeah.
the reputation, or
Oh, yeah, sure.
or the Ashen King, rules this particular area of the abandoned subways.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the motorcycle gang analogy. I know I keep bringing, but I think it's a really like the whole
Yeah.
the concept of like turf wars between religions and like these charismatic leaders. Like I'm picturing Sons of Anarchy, but with like the main characters being demigods.
I like that. Yeah,
It's like it's like American Gods crossed with Sons of Anarchy.
I didn't actually watch Sons of Anarchy. But
Well, okay,
I'm
but-
thinking of have you seen The Wire?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking like The Wire, But
Oh,
like
like,
the leaders
there's-
of the gang is
and there's definitely like
Uh,
organized crime is very bound up into specific religions. I'm
So
sure.
what this brings
Right.
up is like what happens when the police need to arrest someone with godlike power
Yeah,
or god power.
they probably go call up Torm, deity of justice, and get him to help.
Or our
And then they
version of
evacuate the surrounding area.
it. Right.
And then the
Exactly.
kaiju have a big battle.
Or they're like, screw it, that's going to be too hard.
Yeah, I'm picturing it's like the organized crime style thing where they would just look the other way, or they'd be like, they'd have a sit down and have a conversation and be like, look, City Hall's breathing down my neck. Like, you got to give me something.
Yeah.
And then some underling, some new member of the religion who just joined, they'd end up going away for life, because they needed to send somebody up the river.
Yeah, and that could very easily be where the other two relevance factors play in. Like if it's whether it's a new member of the religion or just one that's not very productive because they're not a member of a guild or they're one of the lower class races.
Yeah, you're screwed if you're a non-guild orc just joined the religion.
Absolutely.
It doesn't look like the world creation file they have here has a space for all of these questions, which I think is silly. I'm going to put that into my own notes document.
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
It has like space, AR, VR, AI, etc. I think it's missing like the first question, wireless or wired.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm just going to put it in.
No, the first question is a drop down, right next to communication devices.
Oh.
Yeah, not helpful.
That is the best spreadsheet.
The first question is a drop down.
I don't see it either.
I don't see the
I'm
drop down.
confused.
Yeah, so it's the cell that Matt and I both have selected.
Yeah.
But I don't see anything in that cell.
Yeah, it's blank.
Yeah.
I think you're editing it.
No, I'm not able to edit it. I'm looking at my version of it. On my version of it, there's a drop down.
The first sheet that I never saw. You mean?
Yep, that one.
Okay, well, the one that we have for real seems to be broken.
Because I can edit that one. But
great. All right, so I screwed this up somehow. Well, I guess I didn't
Just
notice
type
that
stuff
there
in.
was.
Who cares?
I didn't notice that there was. Well, feel free to edit it however you want. Okay, so guys, we got to answer this question: is the world still wired, or has it become?
Is Kate back?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You didn't hear her?
No, I'm just
Kate,
distracted.
you there?
My cats are running around crazily.
Yep.
Is the world still wired, or has it become wireless? I'm thinking wireless.
I like the aesthetic of it still being wired, but it's also going to be kind of a pain in the ass. Like, I like the idea that you have to, like, physically get to connection points and things like that. But I do worry it would be annoying.
I would probably rather stick with wireless, personally.
Should we switch to the one Corey created?
Oh, there's no switching now.
Just type wireless into that cell.
Oh.
I mean, we can change
Okay.
the spreadsheet in any way we want, right? It's not like it's part of Roll20.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Alright.
Awesome.
Congratulations, you now have.
I like how the font. I like how the font doesn't match. That's perfect.
Okay. So we are saying wireless. Yes, everybody's in agreement.
Yes.
Okay. What are standard personal communication devices? So, do we have cell phones or headsets or things embedded in your, cochlear implant type things?
Tiny personal demons. Owls.
How
Maybe you said
fantasy are we
owls.
going? I prefer the idea that fantasy is, magic is still not is not well understood, or maybe not even trusted by everybody.
Sure.
So I think it's more interesting if
I don't want
should
it to be
say-
cell phones. That's
Yeah.
I don't like cell phones is too boring.
I'm actually interested in pushing the futuristic aspect here a little bit.
Yeah, I think
Maybe it's kind of-
implants or go ahead.
Maybe magic is kind of like our parents and smartphones. You know, like magic is new, and so like
So the
all
kids
of
are
the
just
junior
casting
high school
spells.
Kids are like exactly, and all of the parents are
but I
like
move my fingers and it doesn't happen.
exactly. No,
I'm doing the
Dad,
same
not
thing
like
you are.
this, like this.
That's
And
what I'm
so,
doing.
So maybe there's like I think it would be funny if there's like a generational divide instead, like
I think that's really funny. I don't know if it's
where
gonna be fun.
so like people who like grew up before the magical apocalypse still like have like whatever technology, but maybe technology itself is becoming kind of phased out in certain things because magic is just like so much better and more efficient, and all of the kids are like really proficient at using it.
Maybe certain technology has advanced to the point where it's indistinguishable from magic, including with communication devices. Maybe some people have a tiny creature living in their ear, and some people have a robot. Some people have a cybernetic implant. And
So
you really
it's
can't
the
tell.
Babelfish kind of
You
thing.
really can't tell by looking at somebody which one they are.
Yeah, so it's in their ear, and it's either a magical creature or some kind of implant.
I feel
But it
like
doesn't
that
matter.
fits into our themes in a certain way. Like you could
Yeah,
have a
for sure.
guild. Like you're either like you have a guild issued ear demon or ear implant, or you have
Yeah.
something like hacked together, or that you've discovered on your own.
When you join a guild, you're automatically given the number of all of the other guild members and those kinds of things. And when you're in a religion, your demon can contact anybody who's a member of that religion.
Actually, yeah. Actually, maybe there aren't magical guilds. Maybe there are magic religions, but the guilds are like
Yeah.
very much
Guilds are
not that.
mundane and tech and
Mhm.
yeah,
Stuff they
I buy
can
that.
control. Stuff they can control and understand, and not reliant on the whim of one individual
Yeah.
powerful entity.
And that's
That
interesting
is
because it
eternal.
kind of puts them at odds, right? It puts the religions and the guilds at odds in a power struggle
Mhm.
that we're kind of caught up in.
Oh yeah,
That's
I could see that being very cool, and that also kind of leads into that idea of why you might be agnostic. Of, eventually, if someone's in both a powerful religion and a powerful guild,
Yep.
what
Yep.
do they do when those two become at odds with each other?
I like that a lot.
All right.
I like that there's
Maybe
kind of
most of the time
a
it's
two
like
different
a tentative-
tracks.
Yeah. Maybe most of the time it's a what?
Maybe most of the time it's like a tentative peace, like they don't
Yep.
openly war
Yep.
with each other, but when they do, then it's bad.
Yeah, because everybody's worried, or the leadership on either side will be worried about all of the people who are caught in the middle. Which side are they going to go with? And that's going to be a hard thing for them to estimate on. So they would rather not take that bet.
Yep.
I'm gonna say, should it be a magic rune that's been placed on you to do this communication device thing, or should it be a like creature based? Are we looking
I
at a
like-
creature feature world in terms of this particular thing, or like runes?
I mean, I like
or-
runes a lot, but I liked the idea of this being kind of out of sight, and you're not sure which kind
Yeah.
of thing everybody has.
Well, it could be a rune. It could be an enchantment.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be, or it also could very easily be that, like, the magical halves have the ability to, sense the enchantments that are on people and such. And so there is a way to detect it, but it's not immediately obvious. The same way
Cool.
that it's not immediately obvious if you've got a cell phone in your pocket.
Or a cybernetic implant in your ear.
Right.
Okay, so either
functionally, this is just a cell phone you can't lose, right? Like, it's not.
so
It's not that different.
Oh,
Can you
was the
play
drop
Candy
down
Crush on
either
my email?
was the drop down either wireless or wired? It was a two
Yeah,
item drop
those
down.
those are the only two options.
Oh my god. Okay, now I get why that. Now I get it. I was so confused. I was like, but if there's a drop down, I need all that information. Okay. I didn't realize it was a drop down with two items.
I don't know why they structured it that way.
that's
It's
stupid.
It was
All right.
very silly.
So it's a wireless world. Our standard communication devices are either cybernetic implant or magical enchantment, and that actually says a lot about you. Cool. I like
which
that.
team you're on.
I really like that answer. All right. What is the status of space exploration?
I'm gonna say super deprioritized. Like, there's a lot going on Earth.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a little bit more about what Kate was saying about the idea of having, or like what the magical convergence was like another plane crashing into ours.
Yep.
I feel like if something like that were to be what happened, then people would stop caring about what's out in space. People would start caring about what's in the multiverse.
Exactly.
If one plane crashed into us, maybe others did too.
Yeah, forget about rockets. How primitive are rockets? Look at me rip open a hole in reality and step through it.
Yeah, I'm not super interested in
Like-
bringing aliens into this as a world setting thing. There may be a specific storyline that delves into that, so I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't think that it's not like a widely accepted main thing. So why don't we say that space exploration hasn't advanced massively beyond where we are at today.
Sure. I would say it's even kind of degraded somewhat.
There might have been, I don't see any reason for, or for things like NASA to not still exist, where they're still doing research, but they're still at that stage of doing research. Nobody's sending missions to Mars in order to try to make it habitable, those kinds of things. It's more about gathering information still at this stage.
I really just, I don't think anybody cares.
Yeah. So very deprioritized is an interesting way of putting that.
Maybe they're still doing it, but it's even less relevant to the average person than it is today.
Yeah,
is what I was thinking.
Okay.
Who cares if we found a giant asteroid made of water that we can mine from over in Greenland? There's a portal to the plane of water.
Right. That's I draw this circle in the dirt, and now I have all the water I want.
So what I've written in is very deprioritized, only slightly advanced beyond present day. Does everybody like that?
Sure.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. You didn't chime in, Kate, but I'm just going to assume that's because you don't feel strongly. What is the role of artificial intelligence, AI, in society?
So, given everything else we have going on, I don't think we need the traditional cyberpunk, the AIs that are out there running things behind the scenes. I think we have a lot of high power players already. But I think self-driving cars and things like that are probably ubiquitous.
I do love the AI story in Neuromancer, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I just think we've got literal demigods too.
Sure.
Maybe the AIs are running the guilds. Maybe that's.
Ooh.
What if we were able to take, some forms of supernatural consciousness and basically digitize them.
I
And that
like
was the
that.
AI.
I like spirits that like it's a spirit and then you bind it into the machine.
Now we're really delving into Warhammer 40k.
Yeah. Oh, I was already gonna, dude. I'm already making like a Mechanicus priest here. Like literally, that was my core concept.
Deus in Machina.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So, AI is basically the most advanced form of mortal consciousness, or at least that's how some people are trying to be.
I was actually
like
picturing
the
it like
entities.
like what if instead of reaching AI via like computer science research, we reached AI by what Corey said of like literally being able to take consciousness that is existing like sort of from the magic side of things and bring it into the technology. And like it's not that it came from the technology side of things, it's that it came from the magic side of things.
It's interesting because it actually kind of, you know, like going back to the religion thing, like that kind of is weird, like that, you know, intelligence is somehow bound to like a soul. And so even artificial intelligence can only progress so far if you don't have some kind of like divine spark or divine creation
I like that.
type act.
Okay.
It also makes like turning off an AI equivalent to killing someone.
Like a true AI.
Like really directly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Like
Because-
it is literally it's not an AI in the sense of we think of it today.
Right.
It's literally a being. And it had an existence before it was in the machine. I mean, I really like this idea, so I'm like running with it, but
I'm trying to I was kind of thinking that there is kind of a theme here of like the only way that people like mortals can really compete with the vastly powerful entities that have come into the world is through this hyper advanced technology.
I like that a lot. Yes.
You like that a lot less?
Yeah, no, I like that. Yes. So like basically like the non religions, whether it's the guilds or individuals, I don't know, figured out how to take these more magical things and like essentially slave them to machines. Right? It's gonna
Yeah,
kind
I
of
feel like it's a.
it's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
feel
a
like that's a
revenge
really good way to
thing, almost
add to that tension between magic and
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
Where
exactly.
you know,
It's like,
the
oh,
magical
you
creatures
pray
are
to
able
your
to-
deity and like he gives you power. Cool. I like went out into the woods and sucked up all these fairies into a thing, and now they're powering my toaster. Like,
Well, so maybe not quite that mundane.
no,
but
I'm
thinking of it as like an AI, a digitized soul, is basically the mortal answer.
Yep.
Because it's so far advanced, this transhumanist idealistic principle that you know, that is how we as mortals can achieve something that begins to approach competing with these gods and godlike entities that have come into the world. So it's like,
Yep.
it's not. So basically, I'm saying like it's not so much that it's less like a Hull in Blades of the Dark, and more like machine spirit in Warhammer 40k,
Yeah.
but like the machine spirit of a Titan, or it's like you can't have. I like this idea though. I like this idea that you actually can't just straight up code an AI.
Yeah, like essentially computer science failed to get there, and we found a shortcut, and sort of like kind of like in a bunch of other cases, we sort of gave up on one path and went
so
down this other one.
You could create a fake AI. You could create something that mimics an AI.
Yeah, like
very,
you could make
very
a
well,
crappy self-driving car.
You can make something that mimics
And
an
maybe-
AI very, very well. But
Maybe
it's
you can
ultimately-
copy. Maybe you can make a copy, but it's lossy.
It doesn't have true self-awareness, right?
Right, and
It
it makes the more copies you make, they get progressively worse, and they start introducing mistakes, and
Okay.
maybe they get crazy. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with this.
So the role of AI is digitized souls are the most advanced form of mortals. Is that sort of what we're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the way they describe it in other parts of the book is they have like magic versus cyber.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to use the same terms.
Sure.
But it's the sort of technology response to something that was more religion magic-y.
So cyber souls. Isn't that just
maybe.
a class or something?
Well, it's the playbooks are broken into those three categories of mundane, cyber, and magic.
Okay. So cyber souls.
I
are the
think
most advanced form of mortals.
I think the core of this question is really how does AI work? It's about like in our day-to-day lives, like we wake up and the AI turns on the TV and the AI starts making us
And
breakfast.
I'm saying no to that.
Yeah, I think I don't want any of that really. I think like self-driving cars and things
AI's
probably as far as
I mean, self-driving cars, automatic toaster, you have an Alexa in your home, whatever. But like a true AI is like at the head of a guild.
you cut out at the head of like
A guild.
head of corporation or a guild. Yep.
Guild,
Okay.
yeah.
Are we just replacing corporations with guilds? Is that
No, because guilds are bigger than corporations. At least that's how
Okay.
I'm understanding it.
so? There are still probably corporations, but they have to operate in the context of the guilds.
Yeah, a corporation is a small entity that requires. So, like for example, where a guild would be, every person who does computer science, there might be a company that's trying to make a game, and so they would need a few members of that computer science guild, but they might also need some people from the artists guild, and they might also need some people from wherever else.
They cross.
Exactly.
They cross guilds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would need so a corporation is like a separate entity, and it's just like a normal corporation where you need people of a lot of different skill sets in order to make the company function.
People in the same
and so the
guild.
corporations and the guilds work very closely together, and corporations would probably have non-compete agreement with guilds where they would only exclusively hire from within guilds and stuff like that. But a corporation wouldn't be a guild because a company that only has a person with one type of skill set in it.
And there's a weird tension there too between the corporation's goals and the guild's goals.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, that's
I like
the thing
that.
is that people, multiple people in the mechanics guild, they're all in competition with each other. Two different doctors are competing for the same patient. They're both in the doctors guild. What's the word I'm looking for?
The inter-guild member relationships are very tense, and it's a very hierarchical what's the word? Essentially they're all stack ranked, right?
Right.
And they're all trying to they're all nominally friendly guild members, but they're all actually backstabbing each other constantly.
Exactly.
I like that.
So that's why when you put guilds in there, you threw a huge curveball into the standard Shadowrun setup where the corporations control the world, and maybe they do, but the guilds kind of cut right across
and
all
they
the
cut
corporations
it in another direction entirely, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep. exactly. So I really like how that's shaping up. Okay, cool. We defined. Are we all happy with artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the role of virtual reality VR and augmented reality AR in society?
I would say the AR is really used almost primarily by like the guilds and stuff as ways of providing information for people about the world. Where with magic they might
Mhm.
use enchantments and stuff to provide that information. I still see very much the Shadowrun kind of version of augmented reality,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but I don't know that I would say that virtual reality serves that same purpose. I would say that virtual reality is probably more rooted in escapism. So
Yeah. I think I feel the same way about VR as I did about space exploration. It's like the world is really interesting now. I don't need to escape it. You know?
There'll always be people who need to escape the world.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
yeah, but I think the point of it is that it's more like the point of VR at this point is so that you can be something that you're not, but it's not really used to meaningfully interact. Like in Shadowrun, VR is used primarily to interact with people who are really far away from you and to
Yeah.
it's basically just like a second version of the world. And
Yeah.
I don't think it would be used in that way in this kind of world. I feel like it would be
Yeah.
more like, I want to be an orc or I want to be an elf because I'm sick and tired of, being a human in
Right.
in the real world, and so I want to,
So
live
is it
in a world where I can be part of this higher class for
Okay,
a while.
so
Is
let's-
its role
let's-
then as a vice? Like it's an escapist thing that like is kind of seedy and looked down on?
Yeah, that's kind of what I see. It's like, it's where you go if you can't make any.
So AR is like a ubiquitous like tool of just everyday life. VR is almost like a drug.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I like that.
So, AR is pretty clear. So it's ubiquitous. AR is ubiquitous. It's used everywhere by corporations and guilds to advertise. Part of the fabric of everyday life.
Is our weird ear implant thing also what's providing all the AR visuals? Like,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So it's ear and eye kind of. It gets in there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
it's got a lot of gross little tendrils.
Okay,
that
so
you
it
put
would
in
be
your ear
it would
and
be an
just-
implant in your brain, in your audio-visual cortex of your brain.
Yeah, the cyber version is, but I think the other thing, who knows?
Magical enchantments.
Yeah, I mean, for the magical version, I'm sure it would just be, people have created spells and stuff that create those similar kinds of images and sounds.
It's
Yeah, okay,
It's
I
going
like
to
that.
vary, and the magical stuff is going to vary depending on your. It's not going to have the guild stamp, right? It's not going to be the same for everybody. It's going to be like very specific to your particular religion or your particular group of magical users.
Yeah. The
and whatnot.
Odin people probably have to cut out their eye or something crazy.
Right. Something like that. Okay. So AR is ubiquitous. It's used everywhere by corporations and guilds to advertise. Part of the fabric of everyday life. Okay. Now the
Yep.
role of VR. We're trying to define this. Kate, you haven't spoken up. Do you have any thoughts?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I like everything that's being discussed. I don't really have anything to add.
Well, I like the what I like about what Corey's suggesting is that it does a neat little end run around the classic Shadowrun problem of the hacker is now going into the Matrix and does their own game for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Where if that's literally not a thing. I kind of like that, and it actually.
I
You
think
know,
the,
because we are, I put the future of the grungy '90s. So I'm going for a
Yeah.
grunge 90s aesthetic here. Is what this
So,
is shaping up as, and that doesn't
all
really.
of the religion stuff, prevents the unification that Matrix implies, right? Like,
Maybe.
there's probably a lot of powerful people who aren't willing to put all their stuff on the net, so to speak. You know,
Okay.
you have to do more in meat space because the religions are so insular.
So VR is a common form of escapism, but it's not like everything's in VR.
And we could say it's the primary form of escapism. Like maybe,
Sure.
maybe it's very common that people go and try to escape this reality through that, but it's not. It doesn't have the same Matrix like interconnectivity thing. It's more
But yeah,
individual.
its main use is basically what it is today. If like it's primarily there for
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're almost talking about like the Oasis type of thing.
Maybe.
Even the Oasis still had a lot of real world stuff for it. Like people made their livings in the Oasis.
So
Yeah.
we'll say
Yeah.
there isn't an equivalent in Magic for this. That there just isn't, like, you can do illusion spells, you know, glamour magics, that kind of thing. But to give you the full, you know, full body experience of VR, like walking, you know, the surface of the moon.
I mean, you could literally go to the moon, right?
You
But
can
now
go to
you're
the
on
moon,
the moon.
in your mind. You can go to the You can go to the moon in your mind.
Yeah.
Or you feel like
can
you're walking on
astral
the moon.
project yourself to the moon,
Okay.
but you're going to get eaten by ghost sharks or something. I don't know.
We'll call them ultra games for the moment.
I like it.
Cool. All right. What is the most cutting edge technology available only to the elite? Right now, I'm thinking it's the AI. Turning yourself into an AI.
I think so too.
Okay.
That.
So
that,
does that make you functionally immortal at that point?
I feel like it does a lot of things. It would make you functionally immortal. It would also, depending on the processor that you are able to put yourself into, it could vastly improve your intellect.
Yep.
So yeah,
So
I
is
can definitely
it-
see that
Is
being
it
the most
like
you could do.
is it like becoming a lich, where you have to like undergo some kind of equivalent of a ritual?
Interesting question. Is there a magical? Actually, no.
Well,
There's no magical
I don't
component
mean
to it.
no. I don't mean is it magical. I mean, is it an ordeal? Is it
Yeah.
like it takes years of preparation and all of these microsurgeries and all of this like mapping your brain?
We'll say like you have to basically have every one of the neurological connections in your brain mapped without any errors.
So it takes a ton of time and it takes a team of people probably.
And then it doesn't. And then after all that, it doesn't work unless you literally let the spark of life leave your body and get fully downloaded.
Yep.
In a process that is not fully understood by the layperson.
Yep. So turning yourself into an AI, but also like having a bunch of AIs at your beck and call is probably a thing that only the elite.
I'm not sure
Right.
that there are really any AIs at the beck and call of somebody else that's not an
Well,
AI.
picture what I'm getting at is like some ultra rich a-hole goes out and basically puts someone into slavery by making them into their, you run my
Okay.
water cooler now.
There may also be gradations of AI where, like, as a less expensive process, you could get the consciousness of a magical spirit or of an animal or something like that, and then you could train its intelligence. It will never be as sophisticated as what's made from a human, but you could use it for day-to-day tasks, and it's something that is still beyond the reach of normal people.
Yeah. So
I
like a
realized
rich person
half-
might have an enslaved, dog AI.
Right.
Yeah.
And that might be their security system.
Right.
Oh my god,
their
I
house.
want to be like a cyber
There's-
PETA activist.
There's So yeah,
Yes.
I love it.
there is a thing, like there's a character archetype that like you treat machines as animals. Like I was really thinking about it.
So that's the thing, is like becoming an AI is now this really interesting thing, because it makes you functionally immortal and gives you all these new like capabilities, right? Because you can like control machines and, you know, increase your own intelligence, etc., like that.
And you don't need to sleep.
But
you know.
but it comes with this incredibly horrifying vulnerability, because if that process of downloading your consciousness or uploading your consciousness is tainted, if somebody slips a little bit of, you know, a little bit of a secret door, a backdoor code into your mind, right? They could exercise some kind of control over you, and there would be nothing you could do about it forever.
There are 2 different Black Mirror episodes that are relevant here.
I'm sure that there are, but I haven't seen it.
Everyone has homework. Go watch all of Black Mirror.
Okay.
I realized that halfway through when we were describing
I'm sure
this
that's
cutting-edge
true.
technology that, oh, I'm describing a Black Mirror episode. Whoops.
Well, what kind of... Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a common theme in sci-fi. What kind of technology does everyone have in their home? So what's a really common...
So the AR thing is already, like, we already made that ubiquitous. Maybe some sort of digital assistant thingy, like a you know, Siri, but more advanced.
What
I
does
could even see
everyone
it being
have,
as
though?
sophisticated. I could even see it being as sophisticated as, like, you know, if you're looking at a piece of, or even a piece of fruit, the AR or there could be an AR display that displays the nutritional facts.
Everyone has AR in their home.
Right, but do they also have, like, a personal, like, you know, imaginary friend type thing?
I bet that would be pretty common, because it would be kind of a status symbol thing. It's like acting like you have an enslaved AI, even though it's not a real AI.
Yeah, but it's not. It's nowhere close to it. It's like a Tamagotchi, right?
Yeah.
It's just like...
Well, or it's as advanced as the most modern, you know, fake...
Right. And there's always
AI, but it's
new
not
ones
really,
coming out, right?
There's always new ones coming out, but they're not real.
Yeah.
They're not self-aware.
They're able to execute.
They're not AIs.
They're able to execute specific pre-programmed commands.
Yeah.
But, like, if you give them general instructions, they're not going to know what to do with it.
Right.
I
And
mean,
they're
they
not
can
entities.
they can be really, really good. They really can be really, really good fakes. That could be a status symbol thing. All right, sure.
And you're going to go out in the world and catch more of them, and then you battle them in gyms.
Personal
Oh my God.
assistance. What else?
We already have too much Pokemon crossover in our other campaign.
Yeah, it's true. In the D&D campaign.
But
okay,
you
give
know,
me one
like,
more
in
thing.
this world, that would happen, right? Like,
Somebody
Pokemon
throw-
Go in this world would be way better.
100%.
Oh yeah,
Like,
AR.
that's Pokemon
full
Go, except
AR,
like you're
full VR.
enslaving actual creatures.
Imagine the Ultra Game Pokemon, where you can actually like have pets that you can rub the electrified mouse head
Oh.
of a Pikachu.
That's, I mean, that's a status symbol thing right there. Like, your pets, you can literally get your actual pet digitized and, like, presented to you in AR. Like, that's crazy. Like your pet doesn't have to die. You can upload them to your, like, AR experience, and
I
you
feel
can
like
still
that's
see
going
your
into-
pet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
that's not
that's-
something everyone's gonna have though.
No, that's a status
Yeah.
thing. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
That's the thing. Like, that's on the end of that only available to the elite. Like, the elite don't have to lose their loved ones at all. They can have them literally digitized.
We're talking about the elite of the elite, though.
Yeah. Like, maybe someone super rich would have their, like, you know, beloved dog digitized, but, like, the ultra elite, maybe they've got, like, parents and ancestors essentially that
Yeah.
are still available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're essentially surrounded by ghosts.
And so are the elite of the magic users.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But for very different. Or maybe there's a natural component to magic where maybe if you are that up there in the religion, you have a horror of subverting the natural order of things, and maybe it's just like absolutely disgusting to those people that that anyone would convert their mind to ones and zeros, their
Yeah.
very soul.
Mm-hmm.
I think both ends of the spectrum really are disgusted by each other.
Yeah, I think so. That's interesting. It's not necessarily that there's a advantaged or oppressed there, because they're both advantaged or oppressed in the right circumstances. So it's a little hard to say there.
Yeah, I'm picturing like the head of the corporations like having like the former CEO and their father and their grandfather and like every
Right.
like every
They're like
advisor.
still freaking running the company.
Right. It's like there's a board meeting that has no one actually in the room. They're all just AR like
Yeah.
projections, and there's only one
I would
person.
say it probably costs the equivalent of $10 billion to digitize
Yeah.
any
These are
consciousness.
like the Shadowrun equivalent of like the dragons.
Exactly.
You know, like otherworldly rich,
Mhm.
otherworldly powerful. Like, yeah.
Okay. Give me something else. I feel like we have some very interesting dynamics here, but I want to throw something. I want to splash something else in. So what is
Some
some
weird
other some other common tech that every person has in their home? Something out of left field, maybe. Not silly, but something unexpected. I'm
Like a
already.
soft serve ice cream machine in every home for some reason.
I'm thinking everyone has an idol.
Sorry, it has a what?
Weird.
An idol. Or an altar. Or
I don't know about every. I mean, like that
like-
feels like that's the religion version of, everybody has a computer kind of thing, right?
Yeah, what are you
Well,
thinking of that from
even
a technology perspective?
even a magic user probably needs a personal computer.
So everyone has a personal computer and an altar.
That's what I'm
And
thinking.
they're in different ends of the house or something, or different rooms.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like this is the office, this is the shrine,
Yeah.
this is the bathroom.
It's just like something you
Okay.
had. I mean, even if you're not particularly religious or at all interested in religion,
I like it's in every home because
Mhm.
the people building the homes think
or
that
assume
you
that
might
you
need
need
it.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, like you might use your shrine as something else,
Like
but you
if
have a
you're-
shrine.
If it's like if you're not making a sacrifice to Hera every now and then to keep the hearth and home, what are you doing?
You know how people will like have a spare bedroom and like just fill it wall to wall with boxes? Like I'm picturing like, oh, this is my shrine, but I'm just it's just storage.
It's more of a junk shrine.
Yeah. Oh, I made it a gym.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as an idea.
Yeah,
No, I
That's
like
definitely-
it.
yeah, I like it too.
I like it that
Um,
like Zillow of this world lists how many shrines in addition to
Mhm.
how many bathrooms,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's,
Or how
it's just that's a
extensive the
thing.
shrine is.
Right. Like you got the square footage of the house and then also the square footage
I'm
of the shrine.
sure there are countries in the real world where every home has like a shrine room.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I like that a lot.
okay, Matt likes it.
It's I like it. I like that ubiquity of
Mhm.
it, even if it's not like not necessarily
Yeah.
everyone uses their shrine, but they have one.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
It would be weird not to have one.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense to me too.
It's just unsettling enough. It's also like, and it's mundane. It's like having a garbage disposal, right? It's not like, yeah, I've got a shrine, whatever.
And then, like, sometimes, like, when you're in college, you have to be roommates with somebody who's, like, wants a different religion, and so you
Yeah.
have to, like, divide up shrine days.
Yes. It's like you have a communal shrine for the dorm. Like there's one per floor.
What should I say instead of shrine room? What's the word I'm looking for, Kate?
Shroom.
Not a chapel. That's like a whole
But yeah, it's on that spectrum.
space. We'll just say shrine.
I mean,
that's a
it
good one.
varies, right? Like sometimes it's the size of a closet, and that's really clearly just a shrine. But then sometimes it's like, you know, it's a whole space. You know, what do they call the wings of a cathedral? There's a name for that.
The
Naves.
nave.
I forget.
The nave.
Yeah.
That would probably be a rich person's thing.
like
okay.
and the ultra rich again. They have an entire cathedral. You know.
Mhm. Whether it's to Zeus or Buddha or Pelor.
So you know what this also implies, though? There is a deity that is the equivalent of beige paint. That is just the
Absolutely.
default. Like there is a default deity that is non-offensive and just like accepted. Like whatever, no one cares. They're gonna paint over that.
That's interesting. So it's not like an undecorated shrine. It's a shrine that is decorated in a way that
Or
people assume.
maybe it
is
started out as undecorated, but then
No,
undecorated.
this is a real problem for real estate agents. Okay? It's like, not only do you have to, like, you know, cover up all the holes from paintings in the walls and
No, you
like,
gotta- yeah, you
redo
gotta-
the bathroom, you have to
Yep.
you have to paint over all the iconography of the previous
Yep.
owner in their shrine room.
Getting it
Uh,
ready for
Rededicate the
market.
shrine.
Uh-huh.
You have to rededicate the shrine.
You have to
because,
rededicate
I-
the shrine. You have to wipe it
Oh.
clean of all the idols.
no.
And the
You know what it
Well,
probably
like, you have
is.
to undedicate it.
you have to
No.
undedicate it.
No, you dedicate it to the god of real estate. Specifically.
Yeah,
That's like that's
Mhm.
what you would do, obviously.
that's
It's like staging
Right.
a house.
hmm That's the that, and then the god of real estate, you know, is perfectly willing to give up their shrine to the next new owner.
Right, and that's part of that's like
God.
a sacrament
Mhm.
in their religion.
Yeah.
The like the coming of the actual deity that these people believe.
And you know what? There are many gods of real estate. There are all different kinds of gods who find that in their portfolios.
I mean, there's
and
Zillow, there's Redfin.
and compete for attention.
I'm so excited to play in this world.
I love it. All right, I'm so glad. Okay, cool. All right.
I do think there should be a weird appliance as well that's just in every home, but I can't think of one right now.
You don't know this, but I've actually been. That is actually from an idea that I've been thinking about for years. Of a
What,
story,
a shrine in every
a
home?
story where there's a shrine in every home. hmm
Oh, well, there you go.
I read a science fiction story a long time ago where that was a thing.
Yep.
And,
That sounds like a weird Philip K. Dick kind of thing to just have. in one
Yeah,
of
it
his
does.
settings.
It does. And I really, yeah, I like this.
Okay, here's a
Demon Keurig.
random weird piece of technology that everybody could have access to. The multi-tool. It's it's basically the Swiss Army knife dialed up to 11, where any tool that you could possibly imagine, you've got at your fingertips.
Is it a sonic screwdriver essentially?
Absolutely. It's a sonic screwdriver.
Well, yeah, it's like that like the little arm things in Mass Effect, where it's just like you have tool, therefore you can.
Yeah,
compute.
And it's AR again, so like it would present itself as, you know, an AR interface.
You know
Yeah.
what? I like that. I like that because it's gonna promote the look that I want to have. You know, where you're like
The Mass Effect visual, you mean? The
No,
weird wrist thing?
the
Or-
No. I mean, you don't, if you are going into a job, right, normally, well, the one problem with this is it's going to mess a little bit with the mechanics, but I don't care. You know what it is? How about, it's the all locations and ports internet access tool, like a cyberdeck. Rather than,
I would just like to point out
Yeah.
that the multi-tool is literally listed as generic.
Really?
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I
then
know, but they're
everybody already
talking
had
about. They're talking about. I mean, they're talking about a modern multi-tool, right?
But it's the future.
It's a wire clippers and a pliers
Yeah.
and
That was what my
screwdriver.
original idea was. That it's just like, it's all of those little things.
like
like, if
everybody
you need
just
to-
randomly has a multi-tool
Yeah, that's kind of, or like,
around the
again,
house.
not, yeah, just for like standard home maintenance, that kind of thing.
I mean, sure. I'm just trying to kind of think about, like, kind of develop that idea a little bit and expand on it.
Yeah.
We'll just put multi-tool for now.
Okay.
We're gonna have to come up with a name for it that's better than multi-tool.
I was thinking cyber tool or something like that, where it's like it connects to our version of the the net.
Sure.
And so in every home, and you know what? It's basically replacing the personal computer. It's the ultimate mobile personal computer. It has like a pop-up
Well, is this,
AR display.
Yeah, so this is just the same implant again, then, isn't it? just the thing
right.
that
So
is doing all of
does
this
your
shit?
implant? So does your implant access the internet? Is what you're saying?
Well, we said the world is
somewhat.
wireless. Remember?
We did.
That's
So,
what
all right.
I remember. I said I liked the aesthetic of having to like connect to ports, but we decided against it. So
We did. All right. I don't know. We'll think about that. There's something interesting there, but I haven't gotten like what's the development of that yet. But yeah, okay. So everybody has a multi-tool or like a sonic screwdriver.
I had one idea for a weird thing that everyone could have in their homes, but I don't know. I don't have a good reason of why they would have it yet. But I think there's something interesting about having like an eye wash station in every home, just as a thing. Like in addition to brushing your teeth, you wash your eyes. And I don't know why.
I think we have enough stuff. I think we have enough
Okay.
in every home stuff. We've got before multi-tool. We already had 3 things, which I think
Oh, did we?
is plenty. Yeah, which I think is already plenty.
Oh, okay. Screw it then.
I think we're good. I mean, we only need one thing. But
Yeah, I will say for the eye washing station thing, it could be cool if like it's a well-known thing that that enchantments enter the body through the eyes, and
Ooh.
so you need to wash out your eyes whenever you get home in case of any rogue
Yeah.
enchantments.
maybe everybody needs a loop of red thread to protect from the evil eye.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's keep going. I think we have a pretty. With that, we came up with some really cool stuff there. I think it's really cool.
I really like the shrine thing.
good.
I really like.
Good.
I like the mundanity of it now.
Yeah. Exactly. The whole point is that it's mundane. It's like everybody has one, even people who aren't religious. Adaption note, technology level. Okay. The feed. The feed represents the extreme outcome of information gathering and sharing when the concept of private information no longer exists. Oh boy, it is the product of constant. There's a really good graphic novel about that where everyone wears masks because private information no longer exists. It is the product of constant interwoven digital content. It is the collection of digital information from content creators, news reports, propaganda, social networks, corporate records, government files, the unblinking eye of surveillance. Once something enters the feed, it can never be deleted, and only elite specialists, like virtual artists, can edit its contents. As a group, decide how the feed manifests in your world. Remember, all people can access the feed in some form. The control of it remains in the hands of the relevant and powerful. Decide what form the feed takes, or roll 1d6. The options are text or video-based notifications, a separate three-dimensional cyberspace, i.e. complete virtual reality, I feel like we're not going in that direction, a public-based augmented reality, where everyone perceives the same things. That's pretty wild. Oh no, that's not wild. That's kind of actually very appropriate.
That's
a
kind of
personalized or community-based augmented reality, where each person or community group perceives the feed differently. Directly implanted thoughts, memories, emotions, or experiences. That's pretty wild. There is no separation between the feed and reality. We live inside the feed, or the feed shapes the landscape around us. I think we're definitely not doing that. It doesn't fit with our grunge or post-grunge futuristic 90s. The feed.
So, obviously,
yeah,
like
go
the
ahead.
complete VR one we don't like because we basically already described why that isn't relevant. I think public-based augmented reality where everyone perceives the same things, I think that's not super interesting. It's just, that's kind of like the default augmented reality cyberpunk thing. Like,
Well,
you all
I
see
think-
advertisements on the walls and all that stuff. You know?
I think you do all see advertisements on the walls. You saying that?
Well,
you
I'm
don't
saying
like
that's
that?
default cyberpunk,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
there's a 400-foot tall lady trying to sell you something.
And I like that. I mean, I have no. I mean, I kind of like that.
I mean, that's the default cyberpunk for me. So I thought it would just be interesting if we had something different.
Well, we
I keep
don't-
looking for things that are different.
We don't have to do something weird and different for every single
Okay.
choice.
Yeah,
Um,
I actually really like number 4, where there's
Yeah.
still that augmented reality, but it's tailored rather than it being tailored to, or tailored to an individual. It's tailored to your community, like it's tailored to your guild, it's tailored to your religion, that kind of
Maybe
thing.
it's that you have filters that you can set essentially. I don't know.
I'm thinking in this world we have like AR street signs, and augmented reality.
Sure.
You know, news blasts. Now,
I mean, the difference between 3 and 4 is really whether you have any filter on what's there,
I'm thinking
right?
a combination. I'm thinking a combination of like. One of the reasons I don't want to do a personalized or community-based augmented reality is I don't want to have to describe something differently for every player.
Oh, that's fair.
I get
Yeah.
enough of that in D&D.
That's a totally
vision,
reasonable.
normal vision.
It didn't
dark
even occur
vision.
to me. Yes, it is actually. You're right. It is exactly the same annoying thing as everyone having different vision levels.
It is. I'm thinking a combination of 1 and 3.
I do like the idea that you can receive a text message on your arm.
Yeah.
You know, in AR. I like that, and you can bring
Okay.
up a video. You know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's put it this way. How about since I think that Cyberpunk and our world especially does well with hierarchical stuff and stratification, what if the quality of the news and the feed stuff is kind of it kind of shows like it tells you something about who's giving you the information depending on how they give it to you. So
It's really pixelated if
the
it's coming from a...
the equivalent of tinfoil hat wearing people. They're sending out text blasts, right? Because it's
Yep.
just somebody from their cybernetic garage, or whatever.
It's like being on a bulletin board.
Mhm.
You know.
Exactly, and if they've taken the time to make a video, well then it's like a little bit of a larger organization, maybe
Yep.
maybe a small religion or something. If it's going all the way to like a three-dimensional experience where you can you can tap on the 3D, walk through the battlefield news article. Then it's coming from one of the largest, it's the equivalent of CNN, but futuristic and dystopian.
This is literally how the internet already is.
Or more futuristic and dystopian.
You've seen those New York Times website article things where as you scroll through them, they're like a whole thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I did have one thought, which is maybe instead of I think the problem with our 3 and 4 thing was that it was filtering. What if it's going the other way entirely? There is a base layer that we all see, but the guilds might have augmented it further, and there's details that only a guild member would be able to pick up on.
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
Or only a member of this whatever, it's different. There's essentially metadata that you don't see sometimes. Or advertisements and things you don't see, signs you don't see. Literally the secret entrance to the guild headquarters. To a guild member, it's just there. It's just got a sign.
Are they called organizations or factions? As our broad word. I guess organizations. But
you mean in this game or in our world?
Visible by them in this game.
In the game there are factions.
So what I've written down for feed description is it's in text, video, or three-dimensional AR experiences. There's a default standard AR that everyone can see, but certain organizations have special features only visible by members.
Yep.
Cool.
I like it.
Kate, you've been a little quiet. Any
She
thoughts?
had to run off to the baby, I think.
Oh, she ran off to the baby again? Dang it.
Well, that's what she said in chat on Roll20.
Oh, BRB baby. Let's take a short break.
Okay.
I will...
Yeah, we've been going at this for a while now.
I know, it's fun creating a world.
It is.
Hopefully, very fun and not the only fun thing. Those of you in chat, thanks for hanging out. Man with no screen name. Hannibal Grimm. We'll be back shortly. I am back.
I'm back too.
Now, I'm trying to find the science fiction story I read long ago that gave rise to this idea. It's like this futuristic setting where there was this world where everyone had like a religious, had like a shrine in their home, and the god was there. And all I remember specifically about this book is that in order to test... Oh, Hannibal Grimm, thank you for following. That was an hour ago, but thank you.
Back.
Welcome back. I'm trying to find this short story that gave me the idea for
The shrine thing?
shrine thing in a
It
futuristic
really
setting.
sounded like a Philip K. Dick thing to me. Like, that's the kind of thing that...
No,
his
I don't
stories
think I
always have
read
one
Philip K.
weird
Dick.
thing.
This was a long time ago. I was
No?
a kid. I was a teenager when I
Oh.
read this. And I don't think I was reading Philip K. Dick then.
And it was sci-fi?
It was sci-fi, and all I remember specifically is that kind of setting. And it was like there was like a futuristic like lighthouse, like a space lighthouse, or something like that.
Was it like a space sci-fi thing, or like a cyberpunk
It was like
sci-fi thing?
It was like a space sci-fi thing. I didn't really know about cyberpunk until much later.
Yeah, because like shrines make sense in a space setting as well, because it's so like...
Yeah, it's like a
Everyone's praying
planet. It was like a
to survive.
planet. It was like a planet where the god was like real, that they worshipped. And all I remember is that in order to test whether this deity, this entity, was reading his mind, he thinks to himself, "Purple monkeys and green slime."
Did you already try Googling that?
And I just tried googling that, and I did not find. Anything
Well, that doesn't
useful.
remind me of anything, so...
But I remember that phrase. That stuck with me all these years. Purple monkeys and green slime. Oh, man, I don't know how old I was when I read this. I think I was going through puberty, and there was like some nudity in the book, and I was like, oh boy. Blew my mind.
Sci-fi.
Did a number on me.
Yeah, well, that's... When Kate brought up Small Gods, like, Small Gods was a very significant book for me when I
Oh, really?
was growing up, yeah.
I've not read that one.
I only read it when Kate actually recommended it.
It's the first Pratchett I read. I don't know why. So it's a weird one to start from, and it was so... like, at the time,
It's
it
a
was,
good
like,
book.
very interesting for me in terms of, like, theology. It was a very interesting, like, theology topic. And so, yeah, for me, Small Gods will always be, like, this sort of really significant touchstone. So I'm super happy that we have some elements of that.
Kate, are you back?
And then American Gods is great too. These are like we've touched on so many of my favorite books and settings. Like,
American Gods was our road trip book, so we would read
Yeah.
more of it only when we went on road trips.
well, it's kind of a road trip. It's like there's a road trip in the book too, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
The copy we had got very dog-eared and beat up, but I think we just recently got rid of it actually. But
That like
Audible actually has a like full cast production of it.
that sounds good.
oh nice.
Really nice.
Nice.
That's another book that like my copy of it is completely dog-eared because I've read it like 6 times.
Well, we would like switch off. We would like switch off, like whoever would be driving, you know, or I'd be driving and Kate would read to me, and then like I'd read to her when we got to the to the motel or whatever.
Yeah. Neuromancer, Small Gods, American Gods. Like these are books that I have read many times over.
Welcome back, Kate. We were just talking about. Matt was just saying what an important book for him, American God, Small Gods.
Small Gods. So I'm
Oh,
super
Small
happy to have
Gods is
that.
great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Okay, define your magic.
I only heard the word define.
Really?
Magic.
Define your magic. The
Is
supernatural.
it me that's... Am I losing words, or
I think
are you
you are.
cutting in and out?
That
Okay.
was the first one where you lost it. I didn't.
Okay,
Yeah, the
yeah, my
time you were-
internet is just up and down. It was good for a while there, but it's gotten bad again.
Okay, I'll stay close to the mic. That seems to help. Define your magic. The supernatural apocalypse hit suddenly and dramatically. Once it came, the world was changed forever. The laws of nature and science all lost all validity. With no better way to describe it, the world labeled it magic. Overall, the world views this original event negatively. Called the Outbreak, it represents the infestation of destructive and alien powers into a once settled world. It infected once normal plants, animals, and people, fundamentally warping their nature. The source. The outbreak and its ongoing infection is driven by the source. The source is a sentient, self-determined, and distinct personality. Its nature is completely alien to the world, and it has no finite form. The source was driven into the world with specific intentions and goals. The outbreak is simply the visible aftershocks of its presence in our world. While the drive and personality of your world's source will vary depending on your setting, there is one essential commonality. The source is a revolt against the segregated, stagnated, and materialistic nature of your dystopia. While the source wants to remake the world in general, it also has a more specific drive. How the source pursues its drive can vary dramatically. If one source dislikes the dominance of humanity, it might randomly transform part of the world into mythical races, like elves or goblins. Another source might send an invading army of paranormal monsters. Still another might manifest as magical disasters that leave swaths of dead in their wake. Decide on the source's drive or roll 1d10. Decide how the source entered the world. Answer the question linked to your choice. We have 2 tables, 4 people, a d10 and a d4. How should we do this? Alright, I guess we'll just talk about it. The source wants to destroy or disrupt either the dominance of humanity, the spread of technology over-reliance on technology, dominance of rational thought, science, or order, pollution, destruction of nature, or consumption and greed, globalization, the dominance of a few nations and cultures over the world, or segregation, continued existence of civilization, i.e. organized society, use of information, oversharing information, over distortion of information, etc., any one of the themes chosen for your dystopian hierarchy, violence, war, or abuse of people, or censorship, tyranny, or absolutism. Well, I do have a thought, but I'm ready to hear anything you guys are thinking.
So definitely the biggest one that popped out to me is dominance of humanity, given that one of the things that we've definitely agreed on is the fact that a bunch of mythical races and stuff have showed up.
Right.
Right.
And also deities.
Exactly.
I mean, that
Yeah.
seems pretty in line with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Well-
6 also sort of is general, like, nihilism, right? Like,
Well, I want to jump in and point out that it's not necessarily that deities are against humanity. Although perhaps seeding them in the world could be a destructive force against humanity.
well,
So that's very true.
it makes humanity non-dominant,
Right.
which
I mean,
is what number 1 says.
You could say that any deity is seeking to dominate humanity in the sense of ruling over
As
it.
soon as any one deity exists, humanity is no longer dominant,
Let
right?
me throw this out there. Let me throw this out there. Are there humans?
Oh, are there at all? Ooh,
Weird.
that's I guess we hadn't explicitly said.
What if maybe the source changed all humans into crazy races?
I mean, I think that's interesting. It is still an aside from whether dominance of humanity was what it wanted to disrupt.
Well, it's certainly
not done, right?
It certainly could.
It-
I mean, it's certainly
Like-
but people could be trying to become more human. The pretty heritage could mean looking more human-like.
Sure.
Like
I just
elves
mean, like,
versus
the
fawns.
source wants to destroy or disrupt in a continuing manner, right? Like, if the source has already done its thing, maybe we should pick something that is more of an ongoing problem and less of a
I guess.
already solved by the outbreak. But I do think your question is still interesting, and I do want to think about it.
Yeah. So one of the things to think about this, one of the reasons this, or one of the other things that's useful about this from a mechanical perspective, when there are consequences for using magic, one of the additional things that happens, or that could happen, in addition to just like taking harms or consequences in the story, is specifically the source or the source's goal could be advanced or blocked by the use of that magic. So, like, if I were to cast a spell and I roll a 1, so something disastrous happens, the thing that's disastrous could be based on what the source is trying to do.
You are saying
So-
this is in a different part of the book?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so this is in addition to just being cool world building stuff, this is something that could lead to interesting things happening in the game.
So, yeah, we want something that we can like make interesting consequences.
All right.
out
Well,
of,
here's what my initial thought was, and I like Dominance of Humanity playing into this. Is that the source wants to destroy subversions of the natural order. So, mortals are born and live out their lives, worship gods, and die. And anything that subverts that, the source wants to destroy.
So, in a way, the source is like another tier above deity,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And like it wants its guys, its deities, to be in charge, who are then in charge of humans, who are then in charge of animals, who are. It's like it wants this beautiful hierarchy with itself at the top. Is kind of what you're saying.
Not necessarily the source being at the top, but
I mean, it's
guess
sort of
that's
implicitly, right?
It's more like the force of nature. Like,
Well, I mean, if it's playing Kingmaker, it kind of is at the top.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, but I really like this idea because one of the things that can tie into directly, like skipping ahead one step and going into how the source entered the world. What if it entered the world because somebody found a way or found out how to transfer that divine spark of the soul into a digital consciousness?
right.
Yeah, and it was
And
like,
that
oh
was
hell
what-
no.
Exactly. And so
Uh-oh.
that one thing opened Pandora's box, and so that was what caused the source to come into the world and just basically say, like, nope, we're not doing this.
Oh, so I know we had talked before about merged worlds, so I was kind of thinking about that. I really like Pandora's box, though. I like that a lot.
And so this is actually, but I think the implication of Pandora's box is that technological advancement or whatever, like, released magic. But you're saying no. This is like the universe's response to technological advancement.
It's a combination of a couple of different things here, but he's saying like the why why it entered the world was a Pandora's box. How it entered the world maybe was more of a merged worlds thing. You know? Like,
yeah.
It's not that mankind found magic. It's that mankind did something.
Well, I guess if it was always present and like responded to mankind doing something, that would be a lift the veil.
Sure, it could be. Yeah, it could be a lift the veil. Lift the veil because the box was opened, so to speak.
I actually didn't even see that Pandora's box was on the list for how the source entered the world. I was just using it as an example. So, yeah. No, like my only goal in saying that was that it was specifically like the source's agenda is, as Max put it, ensuring the natural order of things, and it recognized, and so kind of the moment that humans figured out the secret to artificial intelligence of transferring their consciousness, that was such a gross violation of that natural order that's when the source stepped in.
Yep. And then produced all of this like ranked, all of these races that are essentially ranked fits in with that as well, right? It said, okay, you're not humans anymore. Now you're this very well ordered set of things.
Yeah.
Like, I think it all fits. I like it a lot. I still don't know if there are humans though, Max. That is a tough one.
Corey, are there drop downs under the source?
Let's take a look.
Because I'm seeing 2 blank cells and I'm getting suspicious.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
These are much longer lists.
Well, are they these 2 tables?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So we can just type it in.
Just type it in, whatever.
Yeah.
I just had one thought though. All this stuff about like the natural order doesn't really fit in with World City.
How so?
Because wouldn't it be actively trying to destroy your World City? Because it's so...
Yeah, well, maybe. Well, maybe.
I mean, if you want that, great. But, okay.
I mean, I don't see how that's a... I think that, the downloading or uploading your consciousness into AI is just the ultimate expression of how humans subverted the natural order. I think building a nigh world-spanning city or a continent-spanning city is definitely part of the lead-up to that.
Oh, so okay. So the World City existed before the outbreak.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
yeah,
that makes more sense
to me.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so
for some reason I had the order backwards.
I want to say that I don't know how long ago the outbreak is, but it's not hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Whereas the city has been around a long time.
Okay.
Longer, definitely longer.
Sorry. How long ago are you saying or you think?
I haven't
outbreak
decided.
happened?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll decide together. But it's
Yeah.
relative. It's recent relative to the existence of the city.
It's
Okay.
kind of up to us how we want to be experiencing like the newness of it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think
we
it
want
happened
to be established.
Yeah, I basically sometime it's not as recent as yesterday, and it's not like generations uncounted.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it like was it in our lifetimes? Was it in our parents' lifetimes?
Somewhere in that
That's
region.
the part that matters.
We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out. All right, so let's see. So so the source. The source wants to destroy. I'm putting subversions. Wants to destroy subversions of the natural order. Should I say subversions of nature or the natural order? Because
I like natural order.
All
It
right.
implies there is an ordering,
Yeah. To the
like a
universe.
literal like stack order.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Don't start ripping apart strings.
yeah,
Well, and
Yeah.
also it could imply to it applies to a lot of different things. Like nature is a lot more limited than natural order because, yeah.
I just like this
Yeah,
is a
you're
force
right,
that
Kate.
believes dog is above cat, and doesn't want to see that messed with.
Okay. Entered the world by lifting the veil. Was waiting. Was always existed. And has come out in response to humanity's technological excesses.
So is the implication there that all the deities walking around now were always there?
Maybe we won't decide that.
Okay.
Maybe you don't know.
Sure.
I don't think that.
They're-
I don't think that.
they're here
I don't
now.
think that we have to, at this moment, decide on that. They're here now,
Mm-hmm.
and they probably don't want to talk about how they came into being.
I'm just picturing like what were they doing the moment the veil like lifted? Like was it like a shower curtain being dropped and they were just like, oh, you can see us? Oh no.
Maybe, and maybe they're like, all right, now we have to live on this mortal plane.
and like put on pants.
We'll figure that out. That's an interesting question. Okay, what's next? Did we
It's like
skip
this
something? I
war
feel like we
between
skipped
gods
something.
and humanity that started when we made them start wearing clothes.
Yeah, that's they've just been going around, completely naked all of eternity, and now they have to wear pants, and they're just the
Did we?
haters.
I feel like we skipped fashion aesthetic. Because that's a line in the world creation document.
Is
that-
it?
Yeah, it is, but it's not in the
So maybe it's just optional.
world creation area. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll come across it later on.
Alright. I mean, I have some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's other useful things in here too, like or that's on the sheet but not in the book.
Well,
Like,
maybe we'll
or
fill those
like-
in later.
A list of outbreak heritages
Oh, yeah.
that you can put in there.
That's true. Alright, let's keep going with the book, though.
Yeah.
So, define the civilization. The outbreak
Oh,
permanently altered the world. We are on page 46.
We're about to answer a question that we were just talking about a second ago.
Yep. What did the initial outbreak destroy, and how long has it been since the outbreak?
I wanted to have destroyed something interesting, but I don't
Yeah.
have any ideas.
How about the facility where the first AI?
Oh, I was picturing
Was
something about like a
uploaded.
fundamental property of reality.
Oh, it could be.
Like it destroyed the sky. Like I don't know.
Yeah, to me, it's about the civilization. So I definitely like that that it destroyed the first AI.
No, it tried, but it was too late. It has already been uploaded to the net.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, what if so you know how we were talking about how like we didn't come up with AI the way that most science fiction says we did? What if we did, and that what it destroyed was like the more traditional kind of AI that is just software, and the thing that we've cobbled together using spirits is actually since the outbreak. No?
Well, I think there's some pretty fundamental assumptions we've made about when we created, true AI. So I don't really want to go back and change that now, if that's what you're saying. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you.
No, so what we had sort of said was there is no way to make a thinking computer. There is only digitize an existing thinking thing.
Uh-huh.
But what if there was going to be a way to make a thinking computer, and what the thing destroyed was that initial science and whatever a fundamental aspect of reality would have allowed it.
Oh, so it's like the outbreak occurs and the law of the universe becomes...
Yeah.
You cannot code an AI, only...
Right.
Only a soul can
be
self-aware.
You could have before, but now that you did it, nope, you can't have done that. Like, literally, like, changed a setting on the universe.
That's interesting. I will say that I'm picturing the occurrence of the outbreak happening is this enormous gateway opens, and out come all the world-breaking deities.
They're like, how's it going?
And all the magic that, alters various heritages, etc. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing that I will say, I definitely think that the Source would have destroyed is any form of human government. Like, when there are literal gods that show up and say, yeah, we're in charge now, like, what's the United States going to do about that?
I mean, realistically, definitely bomb them.
Well,
and
we
then
were
when
already
they walk
a
away from it
city
unscathed.
planet.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing. Like, I feel like, we were in this position where, either the continent or the vast or the majority of the world or whatever is all just this one giant city, but it was still ruled by somebody, and that somebody was human. But then the Source showed up, and the gods came down from the heavens and smote that. Or smote that government, because
so it's like
they're in charge.
It's literally the Tower of Babel. Like,
Yeah, honestly, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
So how is the city policed and controlled now?
Are we actually going on to the current government step, or?
Well, that's kind of what Corey is saying, that the government was destroyed. So I'm asking, what would that mean?
What form does it look like now?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking
total
maybe.
anarchy, city-states.
I like the idea that the initial outbreak altered some fundamental property of the universe.
I like that too.
So that one could not code an AI. So it's like, that's off the table.
Yep.
You cannot code a truly self-aware intelligence. And that may or may not have been true before, but it's definitely true now.
Yeah, well, no one really knows if it had successfully been done, because it's not a thing that can even be done now. And why, also, why would you bother? You can just do this other thing.
This is getting very anti-transhumanist.
Yeah. Regarding the current government, based on what I was thinking, or what I was describing of, like, the Source destroying the old government,
yeah.
I'm kind of thinking either it's political anarchy, or more likely that it's city-states that are governed by all of these different religions.
Yeah.
Where it's, city-states is the wrong word, because that implies multiple cities, when it's really more like neighborhoods.
It's like districts, yeah. This block, maybe this building only.
I don't like the idea that religions are governments, because it doesn't make sense with.
Well, government is a
world.
strong word for it. I think that gangs, if you picture a gang running a block of a city.
Okay, but I mean, okay. Well, I think that if there isn't some kind of government, then there's not going to be guilds and corporations. Like, they just won't exist. it'll, if it's just, humanity is just or whatever, transhumanity is just running around in the street, then a lot of this stuff is not going to work. So I think
Well, then
basically
maybe
it's I think
that's
that
the central tension, where some of them or some of these areas are controlled by religions, and some of them are controlled by some of these more powerful AI.
they could be
that exist.
controlled. I think that government is fundamentally civilization, in a sense, but yeah, there's always some kind of people controlling other people. I'm just kind of working this out.
I like the idea of city-states, not in the sense that there are multiple cities, that there are districts. I don't know if I like a worldwide government that controls the entire world city, though.
It's possible.
I think I want multiple.
I could see a couple of different things. I could see that the initial outbreak destroyed the central imperial palace that ruled over everyone with a giant, with an iron fist, or had a controlling interest in all the largest corporations or whatever. And I could see that. And the question is, what has arisen since then? And maybe it's that, corporations control swaths of the city. So, if you travel to different parts of the city, you might be subject to different laws, depending on the nature of the corporation that controls that
I like
region.
the variety that gives. I don't really love the idea that we have this world-spanning city and everything is kind of the same everywhere we go. So I think having some variety of government.
You can just change your environment settings on your AR goggles. Okay. So the initial. Kate. Oh.
Is that what that noise means? Someone
Yeah.
dropped?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not hearing him because I'm in streamer mode.
Yeah, I just keep hearing random bumps.
Kate,
I don't
you
know
there?
what they mean.
Doesn't seem like we have her. Of course, if she's having internet trouble, she's not going to get my text message either.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that's interesting is the puppet theater option, where like the government exists, it still kind of does government things, but like doesn't really have the power. Like you could look at something like picture like there's local government, and then there's like local churches and religions, right? In real life, and if you had a town where like everyone in the town belonged to the same church, and the church was opposed to the local town government, like the people would probably go with the church, Yeah. And so like you could imagine a world where the religions have the real power, but there is still local government. It's just the local government is more focused on like day to day, like keeping the lights on kind of stuff. Like, how often do you actually interact with like town level government?
There could certainly be a power struggle going on various fronts.
I think the world we've created so far has a lot of interesting dynamics at play that don't depend on interesting government. And so I think the government just sort of is a background. It's there, but I think we've got a lot going on already.
Sure. I like the Shadowrun concept, where there was this Supreme Court decision that gave corporations basically the ability to function like countries or governments on their own
Right.
land. Yeah, we're not hearing you, Kate.
I wasn't talking.
Well,
Now we're hearing you.
Now you weren't hearing us before, yeah.
Yeah, but you weren't hearing me at any point during that process because I wasn't saying anything.
Okay, but I know, I'm just letting you know we were saying, like, can you hear us? Can you hear us? And not hearing you.
Got it.
So, do you need any catching up on the stuff we've been talking about?
I guess I'm trying to think. Well, the last thing that I heard was, we were rejecting the idea of city-states and talking about maybe how they're like control neighborhoods. Religions do.
Right. That's kind of what I was suggesting. Is that maybe different regions of the city are controlled by corporations.
Right.
What are the current
we were
government...
talking about religions when I was in.
I don't like the. I don't like the idea that outside of certain limited areas, like a local church or something, I don't like the idea that the religions have, rulership.
Right.
Because I don't think that fits. I don't think that fits our world's themes, as we're saying.
And
So you don't
likewise,
think that
the
it would be
guilds.
like like cultural pockets, kind of like
Yeah.
Jewish neighborhood or the Ethiopian neighborhood or the Korean neighborhood or whatever, but like by religion, because now culture is a really weird thing because all of our races changed.
Well, and because we were one giant world city in the first place, right?
I think that the source, I think that religions governing would be too civilized for the dynamic we're setting up. So I think that you might have religious people all over the city in a particular religion, but they're not being governed. They're not being ruled by the religious order. I don't think that is going to make for a good dynamic if that was the case. I don't think that fits with our world. So the initial outbreak, we definitely decided it destroyed the ability to code an AI without a spirit, without a soul.
Yeah, and I think the creating the AIs out of spirits thing probably came about as, and not intentional, but almost as a revenge kind of act. Like, oh, we can't make it work that way. We'll make it work this other way instead.
In a sense, and it is, it's.
And maybe they didn't know that's what they were doing, but that's how the source would have probably perceived it, as an even greater slight.
In a sense, yeah. Freaky.
Weird.
Let me ask you a yes or no question. Did the initial outbreak destroy the old central imperial palace, or did that never exist and the city has been kind of built by, purely by corporations making agreements?
I'm kind of fine with either way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not too sure about how powerful the corporations really are in this world, because we're in a situation there are literal gods that are walking around in the world.
Yeah.
And the most important factors are which of those gods you serve, whether you're a member of a guild, and what race you are. And so I'm not like I know that the idea of corporate dystopia is a pretty big part of Shadowrun, but I'm not sure that really fits with what we've crossed into at this point.
Actually, you know what? Government is kind of mundane, right? Maybe the corporation's only power is for like fiddly bullshit at the like local government level, right? Like the corporations built all of these buildings and built up the city itself, and so they have sort of land rights essentially. They're like landlords, right? Like they have their corporate thing that they're doing, like whatever their corporation actually is for, but then they also have like tenants essentially, and they're like every one of these corporations is like partially a landlord, like apartment complex.
I guess I really want to know, like, do you guys want there to be like this old kind of imperial structure that imperial structure of government that used to exist, or no? Or is it
I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Really
I feel like that makes a lot of sense as a way for how the guild system became as powerful as it did.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It
so
was government ordered.
So the guild is the guilds are kind of a holdover from that society.
Okay.
But I don't think the guilds are the government now either.
No, yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that either. I think it's more just along the lines of, the guilds had power before the outbreak, and then the outbreak happened, and the guilds were decentralized enough that their structure remains, but it's still not like there's not one guild that controls America and another guild that controls Europe or anything like that.
And the guilds only maintain their power through like monopoly on certain skill sets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're either talking about one or three: political anarchy or city-states.
Mm-hmm.
And how long has it been since the outbreak might answer that question?
Did what I was saying about like the corporations essentially becoming city-states, did that come across? Did I get?
Yeah, I heard that.
Sense?
That's what I'm saying.
Because I'm picturing picture you live in the Pepsi district. Like, you don't have to drink Pepsi all the time. You just happen to live in a building that was built by PepsiCo, and you pay your bills to PepsiCo. Does that make sense?
That would be the city-state.
I think that would be kind of interesting.
Or corporate nations, I guess, is another way of putting it.
So, because the corporations don't have power, because the guilds have all this power in the sense of like trade labor and whatnot. But the corporations do have power over like everyday living conditions.
Right. I'm thinking this is sounding like it's been a few generations since the outbreak. Not that long.
Yeah. So some of the old power still in place, mostly because people haven't had time to really properly settle into what the new reality is.
Right. Some of the old power structures, you said? Yeah, the word structures cut out, I think.
Yeah.
Like
old power structures
being a good example of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Like over time, you could totally see the guilds kind of falling away, but they haven't yet.
Okay. So it's somewhere between one for current government. It's somewhere between like political anarchy, city-states, and corporate nations.
Yeah. Like street level stuff might be pretty chaotic. Like I don't picture even if they are corporations, I don't picture them having like a real iron grip on things, right? Because of all the other factors, the other power struggles.
So what do you guys? This is related. So what do you guys think? So would your grandfather remember the outbreak, or would your great grandmother have been a child when the outbreak occurred?
I'm thinking grandfather, like, three generation difference, or like it happened 3 generations ago. It's not, or it wasn't you, it wasn't your parents, it was your grandparents that experienced it.
Right.
It was your grandparents that saw the gods descend from on high and became fairies and things.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts? Kate, are you still there?
Yep.
I would like it to be that, like, yeah, like grandparents, but when your grandparents were children.
Yeah.
So like the generations that remember how the world used to be are like slowly dying off.
Yeah. Exactly.
But they don't remember how it was. Like, they weren't fully grown when it was that way. Like, it changed when they were young, so they don't remember much.
So it's been like close to 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So things would be like kind of established, that they're not everything complete chaos from it, but kind of still a little bit hacked together, like a lot of old stuff still in place.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And interestingly, the old stuff is a lot of the most futuristic.
Right, because the source kind of blew up the primary driver of technology at the time.
I mean, sure, like, magic and gods are even more ancient, but, like, in terms of your daily experience, like, there was all this highly advanced technology that you're only just getting back up to.
I like that. It was a bit of a reset. And things came back different,
Yeah.
This wasn't the path that things were on at the time.
Right.
I mean, maybe every once in a while you come across some thing from, before, like there's some terminal in some ruins that, you have to plug into, and that's not wireless, and it's weird.
Okay. Heritage. Heritage represents the primary cultural... So what I wrote down, guys, was that the source wants to destroy subversions of the natural order. It entered the world by lifting the veil. It always existed and has come out in response to humanity's technological excesses. Destroyed the existence of AI without a soul, and the old imperial government. And time passed close to a century. I don't know where to put current government. But I guess it's under the starting city.
I guess it's not important.
Heritage represents the primary cultural identity of a person, helps to define the background of characters. When PCs act on knowledge or skills connected to heritage, it can make them more effective. The world your group creates will define the available heritage. The outbreak always mutates plants and animals, but can also create or introduce new heritages. Define the primary heritage as your setting, or roll 1d8. Once you have a cultural theme, decide on at least 3 to 5 specific groups. See table on the next page. So, there's a whole bunch of things here.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to pick 3 to 5. Go. This is on page 48. There's
So the rows of this table are themes. Is that right?
Not sure.
It says theme in one spot and style in another spot, so I don't know. But I think we're pretty firmly in 3, right?
Heritage styles with example groups. Yeah. So it's like 8 styles, and then 5 samples for each of those.
Right, but the earlier thing said theme, not style.
Well,
so yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, I
but
definitely
we're
think
firmly
pretty...
in 3, right? Yeah.
High fantasy or myths.
Mm-hmm.
So mortal humans, changelings, water spirits, house
And those are
spirits,
just examples, but
Right. We could also choose like the D&D races or anything else, whatever.
yeah. So one example outbreak heritage that I'm going to go ahead and throw out there is Fairfolk, where
Okay.
we're dealing with pixies, we're dealing
Yep.
with all kinds of the various types of fairies.
All right, we're
And-
just gonna
and
pick.
per
We're gonna
our,
pick. We're gonna pick the. We're gonna. Each of you should pick one, 1 to 2, that you want in the world. So
What page is this? I'm sorry.
this
I
is
had
page. Well, actually, it's on page 49. But we have decided on that there are high fantasy or mythological races.
Right.
And I think there are probably also some cyberpunk elements, number 7, as well. But everybody should pick one thing that they definitely want in the world. 1 to 2 things that you definitely want in the world. So Corey said Fairfolk.
Makes sense.
Now,
Which can
Corey,
have
you said
subcategories.
Fairfolk and pixies specifically. I don't know.
Yeah, pixies are it would be a subset of the
Elves.
Fairfolk is just members of the Seelie or Unseelie, and
Right. Well, that's
so-
like these. So
Yeah.
these examples, it says these are based on Scottish myths. We don't need to use Scottish myths explicitly. So are you?
Yeah.
When you say Fairfolk, do you mean like all of the sort of D&D elvish things, or do you specifically mean like they said, like Celia and Unseelie?
Yeah, I'm meaning more specific than that. So smaller humanoids with wings, some variation of that.
Oh, how about Fairfolk, Seelie, and Unseelie?
Sounds good.
All right. Or however that word is pronounced.
And while we're doing this, we kind of also need to produce the favorability, unfavorability chart.
Yeah,
Because
let's
that's
start with
that's our
let's start with picking what's going to be in there, and then we'll deal with what the
Well,
hierarchy looks like.
It's also might be helpful to like does anyone have an idea for what would be an interesting unfavorability, race?
I mean,
Good
I think it's automatically interesting if it's like the Seelie court is is an advantage, and being
Yep.
part of the Unseelie Court is a disadvantage. Because they
So
tend to
I'm-
be pretty versus ugly.
Well, I'm less up to speed on what the actual mythological stuff there is, but I thought they were both like high power courts, and they were just opposed.
Well, one's summer and one's winter, and one's everything.
But like
that
you
is-
wouldn't want to piss off either group.
No.
Whereas like the favorability unfavorability thing is like you can punch downwards and not be worried about it. Like it's about oppression.
Right. I mean, it
So
depends,
like
right?
the Unseelie Court is not oppressed. Like they are still incredibly powerful.
No, they're not. They're not all oppressed.
Yeah.
But there are a lot more ugly fair folk in the Unseelie Court who would be oppressed by the culture at large, even if they are,
Oh, I get what you're saying.
accepted in the Unseelie Court.
That like our society looks down on Unseelie Court
The
members.
big-nosed
Okay. Yeah.
gnome covered in
Yep.
warts with a hunchback may be accepted into the Unseelie Court, but he's not ruling it, and he's not controlling any, he's
Got it.
downtrodden.
Whereas like even the lowest member of the Seelie Court, at least like our stupid society like praises them for no reason, basically.
Possibly. I mean, if they're ugly, then, I mean, that's how we defined it, right? Ugly heritage. So
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we literally meant physical beauty though, or we were just struggling to come up with words at the time.
It's true. I'm sure physical beauty plays a large part of it.
Well, yeah, especially the Seelie glamour stuff. It is midnight, by the way, if anybody
Right.
is inclined to go to sleep.
Well, do you have anything you want to throw out there, Matt? With an outbreak heritage, you definitely want to see in the game?
I'm kind of struggling with whether I want to say like, like fauns and things of Greek myth, or like tieflings of the D&D side. Like I want something with that kind of horned appearance, but I don't know if it's
We'll just say
satyrs or if it's tieflings.
fiendish
Yeah.
or demonic.
Like, so the gods showed up. Like, did demons show up too, or?
I mean, that they basically are that.
Yeah. So are there the equivalent of tieflings and Aasimar just by nature of
those
them
are owned by Wizards of the Coast, but
Sure.
essentially, yeah. I mean, there are. Okay, so you want demonic and angelic.
Well, like, if the gods are
touched.
real, then the gods essentially have families and offspring and whatnot, and there are mortals that that take on those characteristics.
Hercules running around.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got fawns. I won't just say fawns. I'll say Greek.
Yeah, I didn't mean to like bring in more than one thing. I just
Greek
any one of those.
I think it's fine. I don't mind.
Well, we do
adding
have
more
to
than
we do
just-
have to put them in some kind of stack ranking at some point. That's
Well,
the more we have, the harder it is to stack rank them.
it can be a lot more complex than that, though, because again, like, within the fair folk, there can be all kinds of different hierarchical stuff, and same within the Greek myths.
Yeah, I mean, I do think like
Harpies
to take it
harpies
back,
are not as well looked upon as nymphs.
Sure. Like to take it back to the bright example, right? I think there's value in putting limits on how many different things there are, because it makes it easier to work within that framework in the moment.
It's true.
Like,
I just, sure. But I want to see what you guys are interested in doing. What about you, Kate?
yeah, my point is, I don't need to bring in Greek myth. Like, I wanted something that had that kind of physical appearance, but
Okay.
I'm fine with using the demonic thing instead of the faun, so to speak.
All right, well, we'll say demonic angelic for sure. What about you,
Okay.
Kate?
Now, am I picking a high fantasy or myth type, or am I picking something else? Or does it matter?
Well, if you want to pick something else, please let us know. But I was thinking high fantasy or myth, but it could be anything. If there's something else you're interested in, we should know. Something else you want to see in this world.
Well, I mean, I kind of was. I was looking at the elemental one, and the thing we were already deciding about, how there's like this, the source, whatever it is, we might not even really know, and it's kind of obsession with nature and natural order. And I was trying to think of a way in which those things could be related. But maybe that would just be like nature spirits of some kind. Because if it doesn't want to fundamentally change... Well, but it did fundamentally change humanity, because it turned them into different races, or released different...
A lot of them, anyway.
So, I was thinking that maybe there would be like people, maybe people or maybe spirits that are like servants of this source, that are like different aspects of nature, and not even necessarily the four elements, but
Yeah, that's interesting.
I didn't really have like a clear idea of it. I was just kind of thinking on those lines.
No, like the nature. I like the nature influence, because we have the Fae thing. We have the demon angel thing. We can have nature. It's to use another Wizards of the Coast term, they call like Genasi, right?
Yeah.
Sort of
well, and
elemental
I think
races.
because that's kind of the missing thing. It's like, we're talking about like, okay, so maybe these portals to other planes were opened up and things rushed through, and so there's gods and there's all these things that, humanity's been kind of dimly aware of, but now they actually live in our world and we're seeing them and interacting with them. But the ultimate like cause of all of this was the source, which is this weird like nature obsessed or naturalness obsessed like Ur deity that's like trying to hit the reset button on us. It's using all of these things to do that, and so it other than that initial event, I feel like it should still have like maybe a much more direct influence in the world, kind of like 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 a controlling dad, like, well, you fucked this up, so now I'm gonna, now I'm really gonna monitor you more closely. You can, establish a curfew and stuff like that. And so some kind of entity that we could be aware of or encounter that's somehow directly linked to the source.
So, when you say nature spirits, are you thinking like dryads and naiads and...
Well,
What's the thing that kind of ties them together? Are they location? Yeah?
I'm trying to decide that. I don't know if I kind of had two ideas. One was that it was just kind of like some kind of a like literal nature spirit, like a dryad or a naiad, where just like nature itself is animated. And then the other idea I had was that it like possesses people, and it grants them like these nature powers. So it like the specific thing that it talks about on the page in the PDF is that, it's like it's a heritage thing where you have like an elemental heritage, right? Maybe it's not in the sense of being like literally a fire person, but maybe it's in the sense of like, you've been like possessed by this source and it's given you certain powers and abilities to use as kind of like its supernatural cops.
Well, when you say possessed, what does that mean? Like it controls you?
This
Takes
is
you
sounding
over?
more like a faction than it is like a heritage, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. Or maybe it's like maybe it's kind of like a cult, like a warlocky thing where,
Yeah, that would be a cool
there's a
faction.
group of
Maybe.
people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking
Like,
about it
you
correctly.
could imagine any race being like called by the source, and like
Yeah.
instead of worshiping Zeus, they essentially worship the source.
Yeah,
So-
maybe
stuff.
that's better. I don't know, like-
I like the
those-
nature spirit. I like the nature spirits thing. Maybe maybe it is. I don't like the possession thing so much because that feels less like it's the natural thing. Like it feels more like a violation.
And this is
or
more of
unnatural.
This is more of like your character's background, like, than it is more of an act.
Yeah,
an
it's like
acting.
where did you? How did what were your parents? What were your parents who produced you?
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
This ultimately is what gives you what was the thing at the very beginning we were talking about? It's the pluses and minuses based on our dystopia.
Right. It
Like when
plays
you make a
into
character,
the
you're going to
theme.
pick one of these things, and that's going to either be a good or bad thing, so to speak.
So I feel like it would be interesting, Kate, if it's like, are you a tree spirit, which might be viewed positively, or a sludge spirit from the sewers, which might not be, viewed have so many advantages in life.
Were there
Maybe I don't know. The other idea I had, and I don't think that anyone's like really explicitly said this yet, except for me, is not. It's not really a racial thing, but I was thinking that there would be like a guildless cast of people who, for one reason or another, couldn't join guilds.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of guild lists. That's implied by the credentials dystopia thing. Is that
Yeah.
there's the haves and the have-nots. There's
So-
plenty of have-nots.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like some of these, some of these categories, like the cyberpunk category or the corporate category, is kind of like, does that even make sense with all of this? Is that a heritage?
The thing that we're
A cast. So wait.
thing that we're
So when you
doing-
say a cast of people, so it's like it doesn't matter how good of a mechanic you are, because your parents weren't mechanics in the Mechanics Guild. You can't join that. Is that what you're saying, Kate?
Yes. Or maybe just because your parents didn't have a guild, maybe it's like this leftover hierarchical thing where, because we were kind of talking like sort of vaguely about how you have to know somebody in order to get into these things. Well, what if you don't know anybody?
So it's the
Right.
gilded and the
But-
guildless is your heritage,
right, which
Gilded family.
the guildless exist just by nature of like the way that the initial setup of the world worked. But are you also positing that there is essentially a race of people that are ungildable?
At least a culture of people. I don't know if it would be like
A heritage is the right word. It's like for whatever
Yeah.
reason, the people from this area or with that color skin or what have you, they cannot be guild members.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would be like a race in the sense of like, we're talking about like freaking, orcs and fairies and stuff like that, but,
But
or
the
even
closest
necessarily,
equivalent would be like the Untouchables.
Right, exactly.
yeah, but yeah, it might be, just, there's just like a group of people who, over the course of generations of this guild thing becoming like more and more, because we're talking about how the guild is like a holdover from this empire.
I feel
Okay,
like this
I
is
got
an
it, I got it.
interesting this is an interesting thing that we could say about one of these various heritages that we're coming up with.
No, I got it, Matt. Listen. Sponsored
Uh-huh.
families and black mark families.
Well, again, I think that's something that just has happened in this world. I don't think that is a choice we're making at this stage of world building.
Sure it is.
No, because what?
Look down at the cyberpunk and corporate.
Yeah, but we didn't pick cyberpunk and corporate. We picked high fantasy or myths.
Okay,
Right, like
that's okay.
we're building a spectrum of the types of people that exist in the world. Independent of that spectrum, you could have black mark families. Like, what I'm saying is, there's nothing wrong with saying there are black mark families. I'm saying that exists on a different axis than the one we're attempting to build right now.
Right. I mean, like, I guess that's true in the sense of like, anybody from any race could
Could be
theoretically,
blacklisted.
yeah.
Right? Blacklisting is absolutely a thing that happens in this world.
And it might be something like there might be people added to the class all the time, and there might
Yep.
be people removed from the class, although that would be much more difficult. But if you like theoretically like did a favor for a very well-connected person or saved their life or something, then they might
Right.
pull strings in order to get you a guild membership.
Not just
So-
you though, your family, like your line of heirs,
Yeah.
has easy access to the guild. And
Yeah, I mean,
I think that is an interesting aspect of the guild's system, if you will. But we still have to figure out the other category. It was the very first thing, the one Corey picked. Like, we need things to fill out our dystopia about mythological races that have inherent ranking. Like, we need the ranks. And I'm not trying to be like ultra pedantic about this. What I'm saying is we're getting ahead of ourselves and we're building cool world details about how the things interact without having filled out what the things are. Like, I love the idea that maybe one of the races is unguildable, but we have to figure out what the races are first.
I think it's important to note because it is a heritage.
Yeah, but like as an example,
At this time,
there could be fair folk that are blacklisted, and there could be fair folk that are sponsored, and
Right.
so that's
It's a different axis.
Yeah,
sure, it is a
So
different
that's-
axis, but
Like,
we need to make sure that we have that covered.
We're trying to build the unit vectors of our reality here.
So, Kate, one idea you've had is the sponsored families and black mark families. Do you like that term?
yeah, sure, that works.
Now, in terms of fantasy, high fantasy races, do you have any? Now, you mentioned nature spirits and elemental, but not elemental spirits. Is there
Well-
anything? Can you pick something that you definitely want to see? Definitely want to be in the world.
Well, yeah, you know what? I'll let's go with like nature spirit type people.
Okay.
And like naiads and dryads that are probably tied to specific natural phenomena.
Yeah, places. Yeah,
And
or phenomena.
I wonder if maybe there would be, like, based on some interpretations within the world of what the source did, maybe it would be seen as like a mark of favor.
Yeah, maybe. So nature spirits might be highly favored in general.
Yeah, because the source
mhm.
like picked them to like become the representation of nature or something.
The guardian
Is-
of a particular
Is society
bridge.
aware of the source in that way? Like, I know we're world building, but like, do our characters know about the source? I thought it was behind the scenes.
I think you would have some kind of idea of it, but it is kind of vague, isn't it? It's a little. You don't really know what it is.
Like the idea that our society thinks people have more value to the source implies we're aware of the source, which I wasn't certain of.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think it would be expressed in other ways, like the way that the god that can give a pretty clear indicator of
Yeah, like
what-
all
what
the
is
Greek
value.
gods are probably real, nice to the dryads, so to speak.
hmm
Uh,
It definitely can depend.
were there other types of spirits in that category, like rock spirits, or like what? I know it's like trees and
Oh yeah.
rivers, right?
This
Are
is basically. Is it Kate? Is it like animistic nature spirits? Like there's a spirit of a rock, a spirit of a tree, or is it like tree spirit, rock spirit? Like is it hyper specific or more general? We still have you, Kate?
Hello?
I hear you.
Hey,
Okay. I think it would be fun if it was hyper specific.
All right.
that tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's animistic.
Speaking of which, are there trees in this world city?
Yeah. And parks. And
Do
private
you have
gardens.
do you have lamppost spirits and stop sign spirits?
Maybe it
100
depends on
No,
who you
well,
ask.
no, because it
Trash-
comes from the source.
trash
And the source
bin.
is like, fuck lamppost.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's a good distinction. So only naturally occurring
Mm-hmm.
things can have. So other question: you are born as a tree spirit.
Yeah.
There's a specific tree that starts growing at that same moment, or like how?
Yeah. Or you're tied to it. It already.
What happens if your tree dies, etc.?
Probably not
Very
good.
exciting.
Probably not good. Probably
Yeah,
not good. Probably
Well,
not
and maybe
good.
like maybe it's like a thing, like it is a heritage, so maybe it's like, okay, so we're like the family of X forest, and so every time one of us dies, someone has to take care of this tree here.
Yeah.
So we have
I like that. That's really interesting. That it's a specific like dynastic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
So it's an inherited guardianship of nature.
So is it? It would only be like growing things then, like a rock maybe doesn't make sense anymore.
Probably a rock that has not been carved or worked
Oh, that's interesting.
or changed by man.
That violates the natural order.
I mean, they're nature spirits. Makes sense.
I mean, like in like mythology, you might have one for wind, and you might have one, for all different kinds of things,
Right,
and they all
yeah.
operate differently depending on what they're
Yeah.
associated.
So I guess maybe the tree spirits specifically do that dynasty grove thing. I like that.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas something like cloud spirits might be a lot more, free
All
form
over
or
the
whatever.
place.
Yeah. They leave home real young.
Right.
They're not ones for
Mhm.
family.
All right. Should we keep going or stop?
I'm happy to keep going basically as late as you guys want. I don't have to get up.
I've
soon.
probably got to get going. It's my dad's birthday tomorrow, so I've got stuff to do.
Happy birthday to him.
Oh, that's weird. It's my dad's birthday on Monday.
Oh.
Cool.
All right. Well, we didn't quite finish. but we will definitely be able to finish the world creation next time and create the team and the characters.
Yeah, unfortunately, I will not be able to attend next week.
All right.
Yeah, because my younger brother is having an engagement party.
Oh, fun.
You got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Congratulations. All right. Well, we may skip next week then for this game.
Do we want to try it? Is there a different day that would work, or
I would love to say yes, but honestly, like my week's going to be pretty packed.
Okay.
So I would not count on it, but I'll see what I can do.
I might do a try at character creation offline and see how it goes, because I don't want to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah. Strike while the iron is hot. Well, let's talk in Discord. We can definitely send text messages about this. I'll make a dedicated text channel, and we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can even finish world creation that way. And you guys you guys can talk about what kind of team type you want.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you everybody who came by the stream and said hello. Thank you to the man with no screen name for hanging out. Thank you to Hannibal Grimm. Thank you to my wonderful players who are super interested and interesting with all their ideas. We are creating a cool world, and I can't wait to get started. I'm going to create you all characters, by the way, for you to fool around with. I'll create you characters in the campaign.
Awesome.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Kate. You guys are each awesome. And until next time, good night.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.